Chapter 23:10. Elder, I've brought him here, said the middle-aged man. He was very respectful towards an old man in his 50s. The old man was dressed in decent clothes, and his aura was very powerful. He had reached the Overlord realm, and his bearing was extraordinary as well. Is it him? The old man looked at Du Xiaofu, but he only glanced at him indifferently. Elder, Lord Yu Ming brought him back, replied the middle-aged man. Then it's good that they're all here. There's no point in keeping traitors alive, said the old man indifferently. An indifferent voice came out of the old man's mouth, and a hand seal immediately slapped on the chest of the middle-aged man that Du Xiaofu had seen during the day. Bang! Before the middle-aged man could react, or even understand what had happened, a muffled sound rang out from his chest. His body was sent flying, shattering in the air as he fell off the cliff. There's no point in keeping you alive. At the same time, a palm print landed on Du Xiaofu's chest. Du Xiaofu's body was directly sent flying, and he fell down the cliff. Don't tell anyone about this. If anyone dares to say anything, they'll end up like them, said the old man as he left with several people. The cliff was empty, and there was dim starlight. Everything was calm, as if nothing had happened at all. Light filled the ancient courtyard. Yu Ming stared at the sky as his eyes shone. The old man appeared and landed beside Yu Ming. He said, "It's all been dealt with. That kid shouldn't have said anything. However, leaving him alive will only lead to trouble in the future. It's better to deal with him as soon as possible. It's just a small matter. I'll have to trouble fourth uncle to deal with it personally." "Thank you for your hard work," said Yu Ming. "It's no trouble at all. It's only natural for me to deal with those traitors in the clan," said the old man with a smile. The Lu clan sent people to investigate in secret. Glass Mo probably doesn't believe it. Otherwise, why would she make such a request? Yu Ming lifted his eyes slightly and looked into the void as he said softly. "That girl is destined to become a member of our Yu clan. In the future, our Yu clan will definitely advance further. The Yu clan will definitely prosper in your hands. Fourth uncle congratulates nephew Ming first." The 50-year-old old man's face was full of smiles. Everything had been settled. In the future, the Yu clan would be the leader of the human clan. "Fourth uncle, you're being too serious. The future of the Yu clan rests on the shoulders of the patriarchs. As a member of the Yu clan, the blood of the Yu clan flows in my veins. Naturally, I will shoulder the responsibility of the Yu clan," Yu Ming said, his eyes glowing. Everything was set in stone. This time, Lu Limo had nothing to say. Soon, she would fall into his arms. At that time, he would be able to obtain both wealth and beauty. Thinking of this, Yu Ming couldn't help but feel extremely comfortable in his heart, and a smile appeared on his handsome face. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was very displeased. Extremely displeased. Even if Du Xiaofu had let his guard down and stood there without fighting back, it was impossible for a puny Overlord realm cultivator to cause any harm to him. However, this was the territory of the Yu clan. Du Xiaofu had no idea how many saints the Yu clan had. However, given the Yu clan's status in the human clan, Du Xiaofu estimated that Yu Bol definitely wasn't the only saint in the Yu clan. Once he made a move and exposed his strength, it was definitely not a wise decision to make since he was unfamiliar with this place. As such, Du Xiaofu took advantage of the Overlord realm cultivator's attack and fell off the cliff. Faint golden light surged, and his body silently disappeared from the cliff. This was Du Xiaoyao's innate ability of the redbone horse monkey. Du Xiaofu relied on this ability to move unhindered underground. After several hours, when he felt that he had left the Yu clan's territory, Du Xiaofu emerged from the ground. Chi La, a crack appeared on the ground as a golden ray of light shot out. Du Xiaofu's figure appeared, and the crack in the ground mysteriously disappeared. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse. The surrounding mountain ranges were continuous, and towering trees were densely packed. The night wind whistled, and specks of starlight left behind mottled traces among the lush leaves and branches. Du Xiaofu's face darkened slightly, and a faint cold light flashed through his eyes. To Du Xiaofu, the Yu clan was making a move against him. Originally, Du Xiaofu didn't want to participate in the Yu clan's actions as long as they didn't go overboard, or if he didn't see it with his own eyes. It had nothing to do with him at all. A great calamity was about to befall the outside world, and even the desolate nation's disciples couldn't protect themselves. Why would Du Xiaofu participate in this matter? With his current cultivation and strength, Du Xiaofu didn't even have the strength to provoke the people here. The Beast Alliance had already provoked enough powerful enemies. However, it was different now. The Yu clan's grandfather and granddaughter had secretly schemed against him in the beginning, and now they actually made a move directly. They were vicious and merciless. If he was just a little bit weaker, he would probably have suffered a calamity. After provoking them time and time again, Du Xiaofu was already enraged, and his bottom line had been crossed. Yu clan, let's slowly settle this score. Du Xiaofu said softly in his heart. This score had to be settled clearly. He couldn't be indifferent after being schemed against by others time and time again. Du Xiaofu's consciousness entered the desolate ancient space. Ouyang Shuang, Dai Xingyu, Qing Luan, and Little Qing were all fine now. After consuming the sacred elixirs, they seemed to have entered the stage of breaking through again. Du Xiaofu didn't disturb them. He didn't know where he was and wasn't familiar with the place. Using his consciousness to probe, he found that there were signs of human habitation nearby. Du Xiaofu discovered something. There were signs of human habitation a few hundred miles away. Whoosh, Du Xiaofu's figure disappeared into the deep forest. After a while, a village appeared on a flat land among the mountains. The mottled buildings were built along the mountain, and in the dark night, it looked peaceful and serene. A demonic beast roared, and in the dark night, a few pairs of scarlet eyes appeared. It was a few wolf-shaped and tiger-shaped demonic beasts that were about 10 feet in size. They were about to pounce on Du Xiaofu. However, these demonic beasts did not have high cultivations. They could only be considered low-ranked demonic beasts. They seemed to be guarding this village. Although Du Xiaofu had completely withdrawn his aura, it only lasted for an instant. When those demonic beasts looked at Du Xiaofu, they suddenly trembled. Fear appeared in their eyes as they involuntarily retreated. Don't move. The roars of these demonic beasts startled the people in the village. Many figures immediately appeared. They looked somewhat nervous as they shouted at those demonic beasts to stop. It's a human. Who are you? Someone discovered that Du Xiaofu was alone. When they saw Du Xiaofu's attire, their nervous expressions immediately calmed down. I'm lost. I don't know where this place is. Du Xiaofu replied as he swept his gaze across them. These figures were all extremely muscular and their cultivation levels were not high. They had not even reached the martial emperor realm. However, there was a tall and straight youth. He was young and looked to be 14 or 15 years old. He hid behind the crowd and secretly sized them up. His cultivation level was at the peak of the martial lord realm and was about to reach the martial emperor realm. His talent was not bad. He seems to be injured. Was he attacked by a demonic beast? The youth sized up Du Xiaofu and stepped forward. Du Xiaofu had not changed out of his tight clothes. When he fought with Feng Jin and the others, his clothes had been torn. At this moment, he looked ragged and in a sorry state, as if he had been injured. Young man, quickly enter the village to heal your injuries. A middle-aged man spoke. He was dressed in plain clothes and short boots. He was amiable and had a simple gaze. Du Xiaofu had already sized up these people. This should be a simple village. He could enter the village to understand the situation here. Thank you, everyone. Du Xiaofu nodded and entered the village with these people. It's so strange. There seems to be something wrong with these demonic beasts today. Someone discovered something strange. The demonic beasts outside the village seemed to be very abnormal today. They did not dare to roar anymore and had long prostrated themselves at the back. They did not even dare to raise their heads. Their bodies were trembling for no reason. The demonic beasts in the village were the same. They all quieted down. However, these villagers did not pay much attention to it. They looked around and did not find anything special. The lights in the village gradually brightened up. There were small bridges and flowing water inside. The courtyard was densely packed, but it was not crowded. Some old, weak, women, and children began to walk out. There were also some youths. Some of them were quite talented. These people looked at Du Xiaofu nervously. Then, they became curious. It's fine. It's not those people. Go back and rest. A middle-aged man who occasionally poked his head out of the courtyard said, indicating for everyone to go back to their houses to rest. Du Xiaofu was a little surprised. It seemed that the people in this village were very nervous, as if they were worried about something. However, these villagers were indeed very simple. Every one of them was very kind. The young man who had just found Du Xiaofu injured took the initiative to ask Du Xiaofu to go to his house. His grandfather was the village chief of this village. His cultivation was also the strongest. He could help Du Xiaofu heal his injuries. Du Xiaofu nodded and learned that the young man was called Lin Feng. This was the Lin village. Most of the people in this village also had the surname Lin. There was an old courtyard with a wall piled up with huge stones at the entrance. The building was simple, but it had a kind of heaviness and was very warm. It gave Du Xiaofu a feeling that this was a real paradise. Young man, what kind of demonic beast did you encounter? Are your injuries serious? How did you get lost and come here? An old man with a white beard appeared. He was dressed in coarse clothes and looked very old. He came to check on Du Xiaofu's injuries. The old man's cultivation could not escape Du Xiaofu's arrangement. He was in the martial emperor realm. I didn't see it clearly. Fortunately, I escaped quickly. My injuries are not serious. I just got lost in a panic and came here. Thank you for saving me. Du Xiaofu nodded slightly to express his gratitude to these villagers. Everyone, go back. I want to check on this young man's injuries. The old man looked at Du Xiaofu and said. Yes, village chief. The old man had a high prestige. He was the village chief of this village. The villagers who had followed him here left immediately. The young man, Lin Feng, also left the small hall. Chapter 23:11. Translator, H2DH2 Mr. Young man, I've lived for 100 years and have seen many people. I know you're not an ordinary person, nor do you look like a ferocious person. I only hope that you don't affect the villagers of the Lin family village. We stand aloof from worldly affairs and have never done anything outrageous, the old man said to Du Xiaofu when only the two of them were left in the small hall. Village chief, you're being too serious. I'm really lost. I'm just looking for a place to settle down and ask about some things. I don't have any ill intentions, Du Xiaofu replied. This old village chief had rather sharp eyes. That's for the best. If there's anything you need to ask, I'll definitely tell you if I know, the old man said kindly. Then, Du Xiaofu found out some things about this place from the old village chief. In this fearsome land, the remaining humans lived and flourished in the east. The Beast Alliance controlled most of the areas here. The remaining areas were dangerous and fearsome. Very few people dared to set foot in them. Many powerful creatures would also die in them, but some people had obtained great opportunities. There was a divine temple among the humans, which was made up of many great clans. Every once in a while, the great clans would recommend a person to oversee the divine temple and become the human emperor. He would lead the humans to resist the beast alliance and lead the humans to flourish. It was said that the divine temple contained all the secrets of the human race. There were many insights left behind by the human race's ancestors. It was a place that every human disciple dreamed of entering. Unfortunately, only supreme prodigies could enter that place. Ordinary people did not even have the right to get close. The divine temple of the human race. Du Xiaofu was moved. The humans here had reproduced and flourished before the great dragon phoenix tribulation. This place was isolated from the rest of the world. The things left behind by the human race's ancestors were definitely not simple. It had been cut off from the outside world. If he had the chance to comprehend them, he would definitely benefit greatly. Du Xiaofu also heard about the Yu family from the old village chief. The Yu family was one of the great clans of the human race, but they were not the only one. There were other great clans that could keep them in check, but the Yu family's influence was very strong. At the mention of Yu family, the old village chief's kind and benevolent eyes glowed with a bit of redness, but it soon disappeared. Head east for 30,000 li. After passing through a large city, you'll reach the sacred palace. Head west for 10,000 li and you'll reach Li City. Head north for 20,000 li and you'll reach Chuan City. Head south for 15,000 li and you'll reach Heng City. Young man, leave after you've fully recovered. There are many demonic beasts on the road and many dangerous places. Although you're extraordinary, you still have to pay attention to your safety. The old village chief said to Du Xiaofu. In the end, he left behind a royal-grade healing pill and arranged for Du Xiaofu to stay in a secluded room before leaving. Grandpa, how are his injuries? Are they serious? In the courtyard, Lin Feng asked his grandfather. He was very simple and kind. Foolish child, have you noticed why the monstrous beasts in the village have all quieted down? The old man asked. Yeah, all the demonic beasts are quiet. How strange. Lin Feng was puzzled. The village had tamed many demonic beasts, but tonight, it was strangely quiet. It was very strange and inconceivable. Rest early. I hope nothing will happen tomorrow. The old man said. Grandpa, those people have gone too far. Sooner or later, I'll become an expert and protect our village. We'll never be bullied again. The young Lin Feng clenched his fists. His gaze was resolute. You're ambitious, but the most important thing is to survive. You have to protect yourself first. Only then will you have the opportunity to become stronger and protect the villagers. The old man said earnestly. His face was full of vicissitudes. Grandpa, I understand. The young Lin Feng seemed to understand but not fully. The conversation in the courtyard couldn't escape Du Xiaofu's ears. Compared to the grandfather and grandson of the Yu family, it was like the difference between heaven and earth. How vicious were the Yu family's grandfather and grandson? This village seems to have met with some trouble. From the moment they entered the village, these simple villagers were very nervous, as if they were facing a great enemy. This made Du Xiaofu feel that this village might have met with some trouble. These villagers were very simple and kind-hearted. The conversation between the grandfather and grandson had especially touched Du Xiaofu. It could be considered as returning the favor if he could help them. However, Du Xiaofu forced a smile. This village was very small. The villagers were very kind-hearted and simple. They stood aloof from worldly affairs. If he got involved in some trouble, he wouldn't be able to stay here forever. Perhaps, he would bring even greater trouble to these idyllic existences. Du Xiaofu had already inquired about the situation. So, he planned to leave early tomorrow morning. He didn't want to bring trouble to these villagers. He planned to cause trouble for the Yu family. Du Xiaofu pondered. The Yu family wasn't simple. Moreover, he was unfamiliar with this place. He didn't have any backing. Therefore, he needed to make some preparations. His cultivation had reached the peak of the initial stage of the sage realm at the moment. Du Xiaofu wanted to make further progress. Then, he would have a better chance of dealing with the Yu family. He had a lot of sage medicines and treasures with him. Du Xiaofu pondered. There was hope if he could forcibly make a breakthrough to the intermediate stage of the sage realm with the help of sage medicines and treasures. However, one couldn't rely solely on treasures to make further progress after reaching the sage realm. One's own comprehension was the key. He had made astonishing progress in his own comprehension during this time. He hadn't fallen behind. However, Du Xiaofu couldn't be sure that he would succeed if he tried to forcibly make a breakthrough now. Du Xiaofu thought of his Cyan spirit armor. The first layer of the Cyan spirit armor was the humanoid level. He had already succeeded in cultivating it. Its might was beyond his expectations. It was abnormally powerful. The second layer of the Cyan spirit armor was the beast-shaped level. According to the cultivation method that Du Xiaofu had obtained, the second layer of the Cyan spirit armor could condense a complete beast-shaped defense. Its defensive power was even more powerful and dreadful than the first layer. Just like the first layer, the final beast-shaped appearance of the second layer of the Cyan spirit armor was also related to the essence blood of the demon beasts used. If one cultivated with the essence blood of a real dragon, they could finally transform into a real dragon. Du Xiaofu could have cultivated the second layer of the Cyan spirit armor long ago. However, he hadn't cultivated it. He had already used his essence blood to arrange the Cyan spirit armor for the first layer. Coupled with the golden rock wings, he had already transformed into a real rock in human form. Whether it was his speed, fighting strength, or defense, all of them had skyrocketed. Du Xiaofu pondered. If he were to use his own blood essence to cultivate this second time, he would at most turn into a real golden-winged great rock. Even if his battle prowess, speed, and defense could be improved further, there wouldn't be much of a difference. What he cultivated was the cultivation method of the golden-winged great rock. Du Xiaofu thought of asking little Xingxing for some essence blood to cultivate the second layer of the Cyan spirit armor. With little Xingxing's essence blood, it would be enough to suppress all the demon beasts. Little Xingxing's father was the legendary dragon god. He was a terrifying expert on the same level as the master of 3,000 cosmos. Little Xingxing himself was also insanely powerful. However, after pondering carefully, Du Xiaofu decided to give up. Although little Xingxing was powerful enough, he wasn't weak either. If he cultivated the second form of the Cyan spirit armor with little Xingxing's essence blood and transformed into a dragon, he would be able to perform some of little Xingxing's moves. It would be like adding wings to a tiger, and his fighting strength would definitely improve. However, Du Xiaofu could still comprehend little Xingxing's moves even if he didn't use his essence blood to cultivate the second layer of the Cyan spirit armor. Besides, the amount of essence blood required to cultivate the second layer of the Cyan spirit armor wasn't just a little bit. It required a lot of essence blood to transform the Cyan spirit armor into its current state. A little essence blood wouldn't be a big deal to little Xingxing. However, a lot of essence blood was enough to affect little Xingxing's cultivation and foundation in the future. Hence, Du Xiaofu gave up on the idea directly. He had always wanted to cultivate the second layer of the Cyan spirit armor. However, the essence blood of demonic beasts was very important. He had to choose the essence blood of demonic beasts with super strong defense. Du Xiaofu had been searching for it all along. Du Xiaofu naturally wouldn't be interested in ordinary demonic beasts. He even thought about the dragons of the four seas and the phoenixes of Mount Wudong. They were undoubtedly one of the two most powerful supreme beast clans at that time. However, the dragons of the four seas and the phoenixes of Mount Wudong weren't stronger than the golden-winged rock clan. Hence, Du Xiaofu had to give up. It's really hard to find a suitable essence blood of demonic beasts. Sitting down with his legs crossed, Du Xiaofu pondered. In the end, he could only give up on the idea temporarily. It wasn't the right time to cultivate the second layer of the Cyan spirit armor. The Divine Palace, Du Xiaofu thought of the Divine Palace. If he could enter the Divine Palace, he might be able to benefit a lot. He might even be able to find an opportunity to advance further. Moreover, since he was already here, there was no reason to miss out on such a rare opportunity. If he left this place, he wouldn't have such an opportunity in the future. Moreover, the Yu clan wasn't far from the Divine Palace. Du Xiaofu felt that the Yu clan seemed to be planning something during this period. Perhaps it was related to Lu Limo. Hence, the Yu clan wanted to silence him. No matter what the Yu clan's plan was, if he could stop them, it would be considered as collecting some interest. Du Xiaofu pondered in his heart. After that, Du Xiaofu could only close his eyes and rest. When the time came, he would think of a way to enter the Divine Palace. If he could find an opportunity to break through to the intermediate Saint realm, that would be the best. Otherwise, he could only take one step at a time. Early the next morning, he would get up and head to the Divine Palace. Early the next morning, Du Xiaofu was still resting with his eyes closed when he was alarmed by the roars of demonic beasts outside. The demonic beasts were noisy and their roars were deafening. Du Xiaofu retracted his hand seal and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. His mind probed slightly. Suddenly, his expression changed slightly and his figure disappeared from the room. The peaceful village had beautiful scenery. However, at this moment the entire village was alarmed. The old, the weak, the women, and the children poked their heads out. Their faces were filled with anxiety and anger. At the entrance of the village, many young men and women gathered. Their faces were filled with anxiety and anger as they clenched their fists. Chapter 23:12. Translator, H2DH2 Mr. Lin Feng spotted Du Xiaofu walking over from within the crowd and immediately pulled Du Xiaofu back. What are you doing here? Your injuries have healed, don't go out. The surrounding young men and women also looked curiously at Du Xiaofu, but their gazes immediately turned anxiously towards the village entrance. What's going on? Du Xiaofu asked Lin Feng, his gaze also turning towards the village entrance. Outside the village entrance, there were currently over 30 monstrous beast mounts. Their ferocious mouths were roaring, their ferocious eyes glowing. Compared to the few monstrous beasts at the village entrance, they were much taller and more ferocious. Their ferocious auras intimidated the few subdued monstrous beasts inside and outside the village, causing them to prostrate themselves on the ground in fear. Atop each of these monstrous beast mounts sat a figure clad in full armor. Their auras were powerful, and their ink-black armor glowed brightly. The formless aura that emanated from them caused the entire village to tremble. These people are from the Black Cavalry Corps. They want to select youths from our village of suitable age to participate in the Divine Temple's examination. If they find any supreme prodigy among them, they can stay in the Divine Temple. Lin Feng's reply also fell into Du Xiaofu's ears. Shouldn't this be a good thing? Du Xiaofu was a little puzzled when he heard this. Looking at the expressions of these villagers, it seemed like they were all hiding, unwilling to go. It should have been a good thing, but the Yu family won't let us go. For the past several hundred years, they've always used the excuse of the examination to send people to attack our Lin family disciples along the way. They won't let us reach the Divine Temple at all. Many of our Lin family's young disciples have already met with misfortune, and not a single one has ever returned. Our Lin family is not a weak family to begin with, but now we're down to this village of people. But the Yu family still won't let us go. Lin Feng clenched his fists tightly, his gaze furious. The Yu clan, Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. Indeed, the Yu clan was everywhere. They had actually been dealing with the Lin clan for hundreds of years. Every once in a while, they would strangle the talented young disciples of the Lin clan in the cradle. They were determined to wipe out the entire bloodline of the Lin clan. They were too vicious and merciless. If this continued, the Lin clan would indeed cease to exist. As time passed, there would be no more outstanding disciples left. In the end, they would all perish in this ominous land. Du Xiaofu had seen the Yu clan's viciousness and knew that they were absolutely capable of doing such a thing. Old Lin, the day has arrived. Can the selected people set off now? Outside the village, the leader of the Black Cavalry Regiment's group of 30 or so people was riding an exceptionally ferocious demonic beast. The patterns on his armor were deep, and it was clear that he had a higher status. Only his middle-aged face was revealed, and he looked down on the old village chief as he asked this question. "Sir, the young people in the village are too old, and the young ones are too young. There really aren't any suitable ones." The old village chief looked at the leader in military attire, and was extremely humble. "Old Lin, do you think I don't know that the grandson you got in your later years has already reached the appropriate age? I have a list of everyone in the Lin clan village, and you can't hide from it. I know that you don't have many capable descendants in this small Lin clan village. Hand over 10 of them and I'll bring them to the temple for testing. Otherwise, I'll personally go in and find them." The leading military officer sneered. His domineering voice was like thunder. "Sir, the Lin clan village really doesn't have that many suitable young people. Please be magnanimous. Whatever conditions you have, as long as it's within this old man's ability, I'll definitely do it." The old village chief begged. He knew all too well that the Yu clan's influence was too great. It was so great that the Lin clan village couldn't avoid it for hundreds of years. "Humph, now you know how to beg. If you knew this would happen, why did your Lin clan's ancestors have to offend the Yu clan? Hand over 10 of your children to the temple for testing. Otherwise, I'll flatten this small Lin clan village today. Choose for yourself." The military officer berated. The demonic beast he was mounted on was about to pounce, and it roared ferociously. "Don't go too far," the old village chief said in a deep voice. The aura on his body fluctuated. He didn't fear the military officer in front of him, but he knew very well that he couldn't protect the entire village. These dozens of people from the Black Flag Army were enough to flatten the entire village. When the time came, blood would flow everywhere. You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Do you really think your cultivation can stop me? Then I'll thoroughly deal with you today. The military officer opened his mouth. Before he finished speaking, his figure directly leapt out from his mount. The aura of the peak of the consummate martial emperor realm erupted in an instant. A palm print, which seemed to carry the shadow of a strange beast, rushed out, and directly slapped towards the old village chief. The old village chief's expression changed. At this moment, his white beard trembled. The sole of his foot stamped on the ground, and his fist shone brightly. Symbols interweaved, and an ancient aura collided with the palm print. Bang! The muffled sound of energy instantly rang out. The ground trembled and cracked, and the impact of the energy caused sand and stones to fly in all directions. Dang dang, the two figures were forced back at the same time. They both rubbed against the ground for several zhang before stabilizing their bodies. It was as if neither of them had gained the upper hand. Village chief. In the village, many villagers surrounded them. Some of the able-bodied men were already unable to restrain their anger. Their auras surged, and they wanted to fight to the death. Aowu, the auras of the 30 or so people from the Black Flag Army also surged. Almost all of them had the cultivation of the martial emperor realm. Demonic beasts roared, and their auras were vast. It resounded through the mountain forest and shook the void. In an instant, both sides were on the verge of breaking out. It seemed like a great battle was about to begin. The military officer stopped. After stabilizing his body, he looked at the old village chief. His expression seemed to be rather astonished. His voice was much gloomier as he said, "Fine, I'll flatten this place today. In the future, I won't have to trouble you anymore. Kill." When these words came out from the military officer's mouth, his figure rushed out in an instant. His aura was even more vigorous. Mysterious symbols interweaved, and he was as fast as lightning. A bright light burst out from his finger, and his power was like thunder. Like lightning, he instantly arrived in front of the old village chief. "Flatten the Lin family village. Kill. Awu." At the same time, the Black Flag Army shouted loudly. Waves of powerful auras exploded. Demonic beasts raised their hooves and galloped forward. Their cries were deafening. The beasts' roars were like thunder. Swish, the lightning-fast guide was filled with murderous intent and terrifying power. It distorted the void and instantly reached the old village chief's throat. "Protect the old, the weak, the women, and the children. Leave." The old village chief's expression changed. As he retreated in a straight line, he shouted. He knew that with his cultivation level and strength, there was no way he could stop the Black Flag Army. The disciples of the Lin family village were no match for them. Rivers of blood would flow. Just as the old village chief retreated and was about to block them, a figure appeared like a ghost. He stretched out his hand and blocked the ferocious guide. At the same time, a shout was heard. Scram! This shout was only one word, but for some reason, it was like thunder. It caused the void to rumble and an invisible wave of space quietly spread out. Such a shout was nothing to the villagers of the Lin family village. However, to the Black Flag Army and their demonic beast mounts, it was as if they had been struck by lightning. Their soul and beast souls trembled. Their bodies trembled and went limp. The demonic beasts prostrated themselves on the ground. The figures fell from the backs of the demonic beasts. Whether it was the demonic beast mounts or the Black Flag Army, they all vomited blood. Their eyes were filled with fear. The sudden change of events caused the villagers of the Lin family village to think that it would be a battle to the death. They were even prepared to fight to the death. However, what happened in front of them left them dumbfounded. Their eyes naturally gathered on the figure that suddenly appeared. "It's him!" Some of the villagers of the Lin family village exclaimed. The figure that suddenly appeared was actually the injured young man from last night. The old village chief was also shocked. He had guessed that the mysterious young man was not simple. However, he did not expect the young man to be so strong. At this moment, the person who was most shocked was the officer of the Black Cavalry Regiment. His finger was like a swamp in front of the young man's palm that had suddenly appeared. No matter how much strength he used, it was useless. The palm was calmly placed in front of him, but it made him feel as if he was being suppressed by 100,000 mountains. He was powerless to resist. The profound energy in his body was also blocked, and his heart felt as if it was about to explode from the pressure. "Boy, we are from the Black Flag Army. We are here to carry out our official duties. Do you dare to stop us?" The officer spoke. He was from the Black Flag Army. Who would dare to provoke the Black Flag Army? How dare you threaten me? You're courting death. Du Xiaofu spoke. As his voice faded, golden light gushed out from the center of his palm, and an incomparably domineering force suddenly swept out. Bang! The officer's body exploded and turned into a mist of blood. The surroundings fell into a strange silence. Even the demonic beasts kept quiet out of fear. Huff, huff, after a while, the people around them secretly gasped. Their eyes were filled with shock. They were extremely shocked. "Everyone, wait for me. If anyone dares to leave, your head will be the end. I will follow you to the divine temple later." Du Xiaofu's gaze swept across the 30 men from the Black Flag Army who were lying limp and vomiting blood. He then turned to the old village chief and said, "Village chief, can we talk in the village?" Okay, please come in." The old village chief had already regained his senses. However, the shock in his eyes did not fade. Du Xiaofu and the old village chief returned to the village amidst the dumbfounded gazes of the numerous villagers. The dozens of people from the Black Cavalry Regiment looked at each other with shock in their eyes. They couldn't help but tremble and didn't dare to leave. Their leader was at the peak of the complete martial royal realm and was about to step into the martial honorable realm. However, he was easily killed by the young man. With such strength, they could not escape. "Sir, thank you for saving us. I thank you on behalf of the Lin family village." After a while, the old village chief bowed in the hall. He knew that the young man in front of him was much more powerful than he had imagined. "Thank you, sir." In the hall, there were a few old men and middle-aged men. Lin Feng and a few other young men and women bowed respectfully. Chapter 23:13. Translator, H2DH2 Mr. Village Chief, you're too polite. It's nothing worth mentioning. Du Xiaofu hurriedly helped the old village chief up, telling everyone to dispense with the formalities. "I heard them mention the Yu family. Just what kind of grudge does the Lin family village have with the Yu family for them to target the Lin family village like this?" Du Xiaofu asked. He wanted to understand the grudge between the Lin family village and the Yu family. He hadn't originally wanted to interfere, but firstly, the Lin family village was simple and kind, so he owed them a debt of gratitude. Secondly, he was about to deal with the Yu family, so it was good to know more about the Yu family's situation. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, the old village chief looked hesitant, wanting to speak, but hesitating. "To tell you the truth, the Yu family and I also have some grudges." "Village chief, please feel free to speak," Du Xiaofu said. "It's a long story. It's already been several hundred years." The old village chief was rather surprised, but then he slowly revealed the secret. It turned out that for several hundred years, the Lin family village had become the Lin family. They were still a second-rate clan of the human race, and had once had a martial domain realm cultivator overseeing them. Although they couldn't compare to the Yu family and other great clans, they still had quite a bit of status among the human race. However, later on, an ancestor of the Lin family obtained a treasure from a secret location. The news somehow reached the ears of an expert of the Yu family, who said he wanted to borrow it to take a look. Everyone knew that the Yu family wouldn't just borrow it to take a look. They clearly wanted to get their hands on it. The ancestor of the Lin family was naturally unwilling, and politely asked for a meeting. Unexpectedly, the expert of the Yu family refused to let the matter rest, directly attacking to seize the treasure. Many of the Lin family disciples were furious, but how could the Lin family be a match for him? They were all heavily injured. The Lin family refused to accept this, and wanted to find the human emperor to settle the matter. However, the expert of the Yu family insisted that the treasure originally belonged to the Yu family. With the Yu family's power, the Lin family couldn't argue back. The human emperor was also helpless, and could only let the matter rest. However, the Lin clan had offended the Yu clan and suffered continuous suppression from the Yu clan. Many of their experts and disciples were killed outside, and the Yu clan's vassal forces made things difficult for them. Everyone knew that it was the Yu clan's doing, but they couldn't do anything about it. In just a few years, the Lin clan suffered a disastrous decline, and their talents withered. There were other large clans who couldn't stand the Yu clan's actions. They were also related to the Lin clan, so they spoke up and told them not to go too far. At the same time, they also told the Lin clan to leave the Yu clan's sphere of influence and leave the Lin clan's bloodline. However, even though the Yu clan seemed to be wary of the Lin clan on the surface and had indeed restrained themselves a lot, they still hadn't let the Lin clan off the hook. Every time the younger generation was tested, the Yu clan would secretly make a move. Over the past several hundred years, every time the younger generation of the Lin clan was tested, none of them of suitable age would be able to escape. The Yu clan had been keeping a close eye on them, and they wouldn't let go of anyone with decent talent. Thus, the Lin clan had reached their current state. The Yu clan and I are absolutely irreconcilable. This is a blood feud that runs as deep as the ocean. My father went out to look for opportunities, but the Yu clan secretly intercepted and killed him. Lin Feng clenched his fists tightly. His eyes were bloodshot on his young and tender face. That was because he was burning with rage. Du Xiaofu's eyes darkened. The Yu clan was truly vicious to the extreme. Sir, you should leave this place as soon as possible. The Black Cavalry Corps belongs to the Yu clan. Once they receive the news, they won't let this matter rest. The Lin clan village has to leave as well. As long as we can leave the Lin clan's bloodline, we won't hesitate even if we have to go to the Beast Alliance's territory. The old village chief had tears in his eyes. They couldn't stay in the Lin clan village any longer. They could only leave the Yu clan's sphere of influence by going to the Beast Alliance's territory. Once we reach the Beast Alliance, will we really be able to leave the Lin clan's bloodline behind? Du Xiaofu looked at the old village chief. Not to mention that the Beast Alliance was the beast race's territory, they would only treat humans as battle servants. This time, he couldn't help but make a move, which would definitely alarm the Yu clan. With the Yu clan's viciousness, they wouldn't give the Lin clan any chance. The experts of the Yu clan would probably come after them to exterminate them. Escaping to the Beast Alliance would be useless. Is the heavens going to forget about the Lin clan? The old village chief's aged face was filled with tears. How could he not understand what Du Xiaofu was referring to? Can the supreme prodigies who are tested enter the divine palace? Du Xiaofu asked. That's right. Any human junior of the right age can participate in the divine palace's test. This is a rule left behind by the divine palace's ancestors. As long as they are supreme prodigies and supreme prodigies of the human race, they will be able to obtain the divine palace's cultivation resources. The old village chief said with some doubt in his eyes. Judging from the young man's bearing, his background was definitely not simple. However, he didn't seem to know something that everyone in the human race knew. How about this? I will represent the Lin clan's village to go to the divine palace's test and buy you some time. If you can find a safe place to stay, then leave as soon as possible. Du Xiaofu said. When he helped, he had already made a decision. He was looking for a chance to enter the divine palace. If he could get the chance to enter the divine palace through the test, it would be killing two birds with one stone. With him around, the Yu clan would probably only deal with him in the short term. He could buy some time for the Lin clan's village. As for the future, he would only be an outsider in this fearsome land. Sir, you want to go to the divine palace? Hearing this, the old village chief and the others were shocked. After killing the Black Cavalry, he wanted to go to the divine palace. This was undoubtedly walking into the hands of the Yu clan. He was walking right into their trap. Don't worry, I'll be fine. The Yu clan won't be able to deal with me. Du Xiaofu said. He reckoned that once he reached the divine palace, the Yu clan would not be able to monopolize it. They would definitely have some fear if they wanted to deal with him. Furthermore, the Yu clan seemed to be plotting something recently. He couldn't let them do as they wished. This could be considered as collecting some interest first. As for whether the Yu clan had a super expert, Du Xiaofu had his own plans. Fu Yibai, Nan Ru, and the others still had a trump card to deal with the demon god. No matter how strong the Yu clan's expert was, it would be enough for him to escape. Sir, there's no need for you to do this for the Lin clan's village. The Yu clan is too big. There's no way to deal with them, the old village chief said seriously. I'm not doing this for the Lin clan's village. I just happen to be going to the divine palace, Du Xiaofu said. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, the old village chief's eyes lit up. He immediately knelt down and said to the people behind him, Lin Feng, Lin Zhu, Lin Yao, Lin Pu, kneel down as well. This scene astonished everyone present. Behind the old village chief, Lin Feng and the other 3 youths of similar age also knelt down. Although they had puzzled expressions on their faces, they still followed suit. Old village chief, you can't do this. Du Xiaofu was astonished. He wanted to help the old village chief up. Your Excellency, please bring the 4 of them to the divine temple for testing. These 4 juniors are quite talented, but it is a pity that our Lin family village has too little cultivation resources, which has hindered their future. If they are able to achieve something in the divine temple, it will be the fortune of our Lin family village. Please agree, Your Excellency. This old man is willing to be a cow or a horse for the rest of his life. The old village chief did not get up, and looked at Du Xiaofu pleadingly. Chapter 23:14. This. Du Xiaofu was stunned and surprised. If he brought Lin Feng and the others along, it would be inconvenient, and there was no way to ensure their safety. This time, Du Xiaofu didn't even have full confidence in dealing with the Yu clan on his trip to the divine temple, let alone bringing a few more people with him. I know this request will inconvenience you, sir, but please grant it. This is the Lin family's last chance to survive. If the 4 of them can enter the temple, our village will have a chance. This was the Lin family village's last chance. As long as Lin Feng and the other 3 could stay in the divine temple, although it would still be very dangerous, it would undoubtedly make the Yu family somewhat fearful. The Yu family was still unable to control the divine temple with one hand. Only when the younger generation matured and became strong could the Lin family have a future. Otherwise, if the Lin family escaped today, there would be no future. In a few hundred years, or even 1,000 years, the entire Lin family would probably cease to exist. Originally, the village chief did not have such thoughts, but it was different now. The young man in front of him was not simple, and even dared to take the initiative to enter the temple. How could such a person be simple? The young man in front of him had a strong aura. This was an opportunity for the Lin family. The village chief did not want to miss it. Sir, please bring us along. We want to go to the temple. Lin Feng and the other 3 were also pleading. Their eyes were filled with determination and stubbornness. How could they not know that only by going to the sage temple and being tested as a supreme genius would they have the opportunity to become stronger? Only then would they be able to protect the Lin village and the Lin family in the future. Du Xiaofu looked at the old village chief, then at Lin Feng and the other 3 youths. His heart was moved. After a moment of hesitation, he nodded and said, I can bring you to the sacred palace, and I will do my best to protect your safety along the way. However, there might be a chance. As for what the outcome will be, I can't say for sure. Thank you, sir. The village chief was pleasantly surprised. After a while, the group left the village. Other than Du Xiaofu, Lin Feng and the others, there was an old man and 4 middle-aged men. They were the few people with the strongest cultivation in the Lin family village apart from the old village head. With them, they could take care of Lin Feng and the other 3. Sir, be careful on the way. At the entrance of the village chief and many other elders came forward, grateful and exhorting. Children, be careful on the way, be careful. Many people surrounded Lin Feng, Lin Pu, and Lin Yao, exhorting them. Some elders were weeping and worried. In the past, none of the youths who had gone to the temple to be tested had returned safely. This farewell might be an eternal farewell. These children were still too young. We will definitely enter the temple, and protect the Lin family, and never be bullied. Lin Pu, Lin Yao, and the others were. The black cavalries were outside the village, the black cavalry, outside, they did not dare black cavalry outside. Following which, Du Xiaofu led Lin Feng and the rest out, allowing the black cavalry regiment members to free up a few demonic beast mounts for Lin Feng and the rest. As for Du Xiaofu, he rode the mount of the slain officer, leaving last. Those demonic beast mounts had originally been well trained and very obedient. However, under the suppression of Du Xiaofu's formless aura, they all submitted, not daring to resist. How long will it take to reach the temple? On the way, Du Xiaofu asked the black cavalry behind him. 2 hours later, we will arrive at Jade Sea City. There will be a gathering of the younger generation there, riding a flying sacred artifact to Jade Sea City before passing through a spatial wormhole to reach the temple. We should be able to reach the temple by tomorrow afternoon, one of the black cavalry said, his gaze still filled with fear. After arriving at Jade Sea City, tell those who should be told that the Lin family is going to the temple for the test. Do not come and provoke them. Otherwise, I will not be polite. Du Xiaofu said. After arriving at Jade Sea City, they would definitely meet the black cavalry. He could not be bothered to waste time on these small fries. After arriving at the temple, he would meet the Yu family head-on. That would be the true battlefield with the Yu family. Hearing this, those of the black cavalry trembled. When had such a junior appeared in the Lin family? Too strong, easily slaying someone who was already close to the martial exalt realm with a single move. This was definitely already a heaven's chosen. The demonic beasts of the black cavalry were very fast, traversing through the mountain forests. 2 hours later, the silhouette of a city appeared before their eyes. That was Jade Sea City. It was not very large in size. When Du Xiaofu arrived at the city gates, he encountered many densely packed figures. A small portion of them were young men and women, while the rest seemed to be the elders of these youths as well as the people accompanying them. These are all people from the nearby villages and towns. They have all gathered here to participate in the test for the temple. The older ones are all there to look after the descendants of their families. Some of them have experience and can be guided when the time comes. The old man accompanying the Lin family village told Du Xiaofu about the situation, seeming to know quite a few people. It was just that when the surrounding people saw that the Lin family people were together with the black cavalry, they instantly retreated far away. Sigh, the Lin family people have come again. I'm afraid they won't even make it to the temple. The Lin family village is really pitiful. Having offended the Yu family, they will never be able to make a comeback. When the people of the Lin family village entered the city, the streets were bustling with activity. From time to time, whispers could be heard. Although the voices were very low, they could not escape Du Xiaofu's ears. Everyone who is going to the sacred palace will have to line up here to take a flying sacred artifact to Jade Fall City and pass through the spatial wormhole. The members of the Black Cavalry Regiment anxiously escorted Du Xiaofu and the others to a huge square. They even escorted them to the front of the square. At this moment, there was already a dense crowd waiting on the square. There were men and women, old and young, and many of them had extraordinary auras. When these people saw the Black Cavalry Regiment respectfully leading a group of people to the front, they couldn't help but feel a little strange. When they saw that these people were from the Lin village, they were even more surprised and puzzled. At this moment, Du Xiaofu had secretly scanned the entire Jade Sea City with his mind. There were no Saint Realm cultivators, but he felt the aura of many Domain Realm cultivators. However, given Du Xiaofu's current cultivation level, he didn't care about Nirvana Supremes who were at the pinnacle of the indestructible realm. These Domain Realm cultivators only surprised Du Xiaofu a little. At this moment, only people from the nearby towns and villages had gathered in Jade Sea City, but there were already many Domain Realm cultivators. This was something that Kyushu couldn't compare with in the outside world. We'll line up again. You can go down. Du Xiaofu waved his hand, motioning the Black Cavalry Regiment to leave. He had no intention of making things difficult for these people. Russell, the crowd secretly whispered. Some people in the surroundings couldn't help but secretly retreat a little when they saw the people of the Lin village. They are afraid of getting into trouble. The old man of the Lin village revealed a wry smile. The people of the Lin village had long been used to being treated like this. For hundreds of years, the people in the surrounding villages and towns didn't dare to openly exchange cultivation resources with the Lin village. Even the shops didn't interact with the people of the Lin village. The cultivation resources that the Lin family village needed were often obtained by paying a higher price in secret. I will work hard to enter the temple and change all of this. Looking at the attitude of the people around the Lin village, Lin Feng and the other juniors secretly clenched their fists. They felt that all of this was unfair. You're really not afraid. You're used to being arrogant. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu's eyes slightly raised, and a faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. A woo! The beast roared like thunder, and the ground trembled as if the entire Jade Sea city was shaking. The majestic horde of demonic beasts neatly galloped out from the direction of the most majestic building in the city. Their imposing aura startled everyone in the city. All of them turned their gazes over, and when they saw the majestic horde of demonic beasts galloping towards the public square, all of them retreated, not daring to get close. Rumble, the momentum was astonishing. On top of the majestic beast mounts were the people of the Black Cavalry Corps. There were a lot of people, probably more than 2,000 of them. Their black armor glowed, and their ferocious auras gathered together and soared into the clouds. Immediately, an oppressive feeling appeared in the sky, as if a storm was coming. You dare to kill the leader of my Black Flag Corps? Do you want the small Lin village to be trampled? With such a loud shout, even the roars of the beast mounts were masked. It was like a thunderclap in the sky of Jade Sea City, deafening to the ears. When such a voice fell, the imposing manner of the Black Cavalry Corps was fierce. In front of the densely packed Black Cavalry Corps, a pitch-black demonic beast that looked like a tiger or a dragon stepped out. It was 3 feet long, densely covered in black scales, and had a pair of wings on its back. Its eyes were fierce and frightening, and it looked like it was about to pounce. Such a fierce demonic beast mount was already at the complete realm of beast revered realm. Its inexplicable aura made the figures in the square tremble. At this moment, a small figure was sitting on top of this ferocious mount. He seemed to be a young man around 10 years old. The black armor on his body was shiny and the talisman patterns on the armor emitted a radiance. His face seemed to be around 50 years old. However, such a small figure exuded an incomparably powerful aura, distorting the surrounding void. That pair of long and narrow eyes were even more frightening, as if it could cause one's soul to tremble just by looking at it. At this moment, such a gaze fell on the people of the Lin village. Lin Feng and the others trembled and couldn't help but collapse. Du Xiaofu secretly released some of his aura to protect the people of the Lin family. He glanced at the small figure. He should have just stepped into the initial realm of domain not long ago. But it was not bad. In the Sanlu Kyushu, he was already a first-class expert. Chapter 23:15. Sir, it's that young man. He killed our leader. A member of the Black Cavalry Regiment who had followed them all the way back said to the slightly skinny figure. Brat, I don't care who you are. You're going to die. The leader stared straight at Du Xiaofu as he growled. His long and narrow eyes were filled with cold killing intent, but he had no intention of making a move. Roar! As soon as he finished speaking, the demonic beast that seemed like a mix between a tiger and a dragon let out a neigh, and it opened its bloody mouth to reveal its fangs. Its entire body glowed, and it was ferocious to the extreme. It directly dashed up and pounced directly towards Du Xiaofu with the intention of directly biting Du Xiaofu into pieces. This demonic beast mount was already very strong. It was at the complete beast sovereign realm. The terrifying bloody aura it exuded caused Lin Feng and the rest to tremble. Du Xiaofu raised his hand and flicked his sleeve. A faint golden light rippled in front of him. Bang bang, however, it was this light palm that caused the void to shatter. Everything seemed slow, but in reality, it was as fast as lightning. The demonic beast mount and the skinny leader did not even have time to react. They did not even know what had happened before they exploded in the shattered void and turned into a bloody mist. I said, "Don't provoke us. Do you want to die?" As such, Du Xiaofu shouted. Looking at the 2,000 members of the Black Cavalry Regiment, his eyes rippled with golden light. Roar! The demonic beast roared, as if it had received the greatest shock. Instantly, fear surged in its ferocious eyes. The Black Cavalry Regiment went limp on the ground. Everyone was dumbfounded, unable to recover from their shock. Lin Feng, Lin Yao and the other members of the Lin family were also dumbfounded. Originally, they thought that things were not looking good for them. The demonic beast mount was already so powerful that it was beyond what they had ever seen in their lives. However, they did not expect that the powerful demonic beast and the expert from the Black Cavalry Corps could not even withstand a single blow from the young lord. Gulp gulp, after a few breaths, the crowd gasped. Some people's throats were boiling as they swallowed their saliva. They were dumbfounded. The 2,000 members of the Black Cavalry Regiment stood up, trembling. Their eyes were filled with fear and trepidation. Their leader was at the domain realm, but he could not withstand a single blow from the young man and was killed. The young man obviously did not take the Black Cavalry Regiment seriously. Such a person was not someone they could provoke. Can we set off for Billowing City now? Du Xiaofu's gaze swept across the Black Cavalry Corps, causing the 2,000 members of the Black Cavalry Corps to feel their hair stand on end for no reason. Du Xiaofu's intimidation was too strong, but there was no doubt that this kind of intimidation was the most useful. Boom! A huge flying saint artifact appeared in the void of the square. It looked like a flying ship and was engraved with ancient runes. Its aura was vast. This was a flying saint artifact. Although it did not appear to be large, its interior was extremely large. It could accommodate many living beings. Du Xiaofu and the disciples of the Lin family were respectfully invited onto the flying saint artifact. They were arranged in the most comfortable places while the others lined up to enter. Soon after, the flying type saint artifact streaked across the sky, heading towards Jade Falls City. Although its speed was not as fast as the flying type saint artifact used by the Yu clan, it was still not slow. Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged on the flying saint artifact. His eyes were closed as he rested. He completely ignored the Black Cavalry Corps. Since he had already decided to enter the Divine Temple, Du Xiaofu decided to do it openly. Perhaps it would be easier to deal with the Yu family after making a big deal out of it. Once the matter was blown out of proportion, the Yu family would no longer be able to cover the sky with one hand. On the flying type saint artifact, Lin Feng, Lin Pu, and the others were still in a daze as they stared at Du Xiaofu, who was seated cross-legged. They knew that the young man in front of them was an expert, but they did not expect him to be so powerful. Jade Falls City was one of the largest and most prosperous cities in the human world. There were spatial wormholes connecting the various major cities to the Divine Temple. Recently, there were too many people heading to Jade Falls City. They were the younger generation of the various major powers. Under the guidance of their elders, they had to pass through the spatial wormholes to reach the Divine Temple. Deep into the night, Jade Falls City was still brightly lit and extraordinarily bustling. Shops were open along the streets, and the sides of the streets were densely packed with simple stalls that sold all sorts of cultivation materials and rare and strange items. When Du Xiaofu and the others arrived at Jade Falls City on the flying saint artifact, they were shocked by the prosperity of Jade Falls City. It was much more lively than they had imagined. And this was just one city. From the looks of it, the Danger Lands had already become an independent world. The human race had also multiplied to a great extent. The inns in the city were already filled to the brim. The spatial wormhole seemed to have been closed. Many people could only wait in the plaza. Some were sitting cross-legged with their eyes closed, while others were strolling leisurely on the streets. The spatial wormhole will open early tomorrow morning. When the time comes, we will enter the wormhole in batches. A member of the Black Cavalry Regiment said to Du Xiaofu. His heart was still beating fast, and he did not dare to get close. Du Xiaofu ignored him. He strolled along the streets curiously, looking at the cultivation materials. However, there were some differences between this place and the Beast Alliance. Cultivation materials could be purchased, unlike the Beast Alliance, where one could only exchange for items. However, some precious cultivation materials such as treasured herbs, artifacts, and heavenly treasures could only be exchanged for treasures of the same level. No one would be foolish enough to sell them separately. In a few large shops, Du Xiaofu discovered some rare treasured herbs and materials for forging talisman arrays. He exchanged them for cultivation materials of the same level. On the streets, the bustling crowd was densely packed. On both sides of the streets, the clamor of hawking reached into the night sky. It was extraordinarily lively. Young man, come over quickly. This is a map of a secret location. It contains a huge opportunity. If you can obtain it, it will be enough for you to reach the peak and make a name for yourself. You only need a sacred artifact or a half-step sacred herb. Don't miss it. A thin old man pulled Du Xiaofu back and mysteriously took out an old item from his lapel. He was afraid that someone would find it and rob it. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly, shook his head, and left immediately. How was this a treasure? This was clearly a scam. Young man, I won't lie to you. You will regret it if you leave. How about this? A sacred artifact will do. How about a Dao artifact? A Dao artifact will do. Young man, don't go. Let's discuss this. Voices kept coming from behind. Let's go. Wait for me here. Lin Feng, follow me to a place, Du Xiaofu said to Lin Feng. Chapter 23:16. Everyone was puzzled but had no objections. They trusted the young man in front of them. If he had any intention of harming them, he could have razed the Lin family village to the ground. After a while, at a deserted street corner, Du Xiaofu stopped and looked at Lin Feng. Sir, what are we doing here? Lin Feng was puzzled and looked around. You want to join the temple? Du Xiaofu asked Lin Feng. Of course. Only by joining the temple can I become strong. Only by joining the temple will I have a chance. Lin Feng said with determination. Du Xiaofu asked calmly, why do you want to become strong? I want to protect the Lin family village. I want to become strong so that no one will dare to bully the Lin family village. Lin Feng clenched his fists. Only by becoming strong could he protect the Lin family village. Du Xiaofu was moved. He thought of himself in the past. Wasn't he the same? Even now, only by becoming the strongest could he protect his family and friends. Have you ever thought about what would happen if you are not talented enough to pass the test and enter the temple? Du Xiaofu asked. Lin Feng, Lin Pu, Lin Yao and the others' talents could not escape Du Xiaofu's prying eyes. Although they were not bad, they had grown up in the Lin family village and had lost the best time to build their foundation. Among the humans in the danger grounds, they did not have much confidence to stand out and become a true paragon. This. Lin Feng's face darkened. When Lin Feng heard this, the look in his eyes suddenly dimmed. He wanted to join the divine temple, but he knew that one had to have supreme talent to enter the divine temple. He wasn't sure if he had the chance to join the divine temple with his talent. If he couldn't pass the test, he wouldn't be able to join the divine temple and become a cultivator. Sir, I've never thought about it before. But even if I can't pass the test, I'll still work hard in my cultivation. I'm 10 times more hardworking than others. If that's not enough, I'll work 100 times harder. I believe that I'll have the chance to become an expert one day. Lin Feng inclined his head and stared at Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu smiled and said, how about this, I have an idea. Although I cannot guarantee that you will pass the test and enter the temple, at least you will have a chance to improve. But the process is tough and tempering and no one can take it, of God, I don't know if you are, dong dong dong. Lin Feng, Lin Feng, Lin Feng. Sir, Lin. No. Lin, 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 Lin. Lin Feng, Lin, Lin was. Lin Feng, Lin, 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 Lin was Lin Lin, Lin Lin, Lin was Lin 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 Feng was to Lin of. Of Lin of how of. Get up. Du Xiaofu pulled Lin Feng to his feet and smiled. Lin Feng's talent was not bad, but his foundation was not enough. If he wanted to enter the temple and become a supreme genius, he could succeed with a little modification. But the final result would depend on his own luck. Half an hour later, Du Xiaofu returned to his original place, but when he saw the scene in front of him, his face darkened. The place where Lin Pu, Lin Yao and the others had been waiting was now crowded with people. There were hundreds of people from the Black Cavalry Corps riding on ferocious demonic beasts in the middle. Every one of them was clad in black armor and mysterious runes were fluctuating. A strong and fierce aura spread out. Compared to the people of the Black Cavalry Corps in Jade Sea City, there was a world of difference. Du Xiaofu glanced at them indifferently. Among the hundreds of people from the Black Cavalry Corps, the weakest was at the Martial Emperor realm. The one in front was a middle-aged man with a strong build and piercing eyes. He was at the Boundary Domain realm. Du Xiaofu slowly approached, the faint aura fluctuating from his body. The surrounding people were suddenly shaken and moved away involuntarily. The crowd was in an uproar. In the middle of the crowd, the hundreds of people from the Black Cavalry Corps suddenly looked at Du Xiaofu. Roar, the demonic beasts growled in a low voice, their ferocious eyes staring at Du Xiaofu. For some reason, they seemed restless and uneasy. This change caused the 100 Black Cavalry Regiment to be secretly surprised. Their mounts were not ordinary. They were all mounts that had recognized their masters. Their cultivations were also not low. However, at this moment, they seemed to be somewhat out of their control. Du Xiaofu walked to the center of the field. He already knew that Lin Pu, Lin Yao, and the others were not here to negotiate. He raised his head slightly and looked at the middle-aged leader. He said, "Where are the people I brought?" Hearing this, the people from the Black Cavalry Corps were secretly shocked. This young man did not seem to take them seriously. "You are the young man from the Lin family village who killed our people?" The middle-aged leader asked. He had a powerful aura. His aura fluctuated secretly, and his voice was deafening. It was enough to make people tremble in fear. Those people wanted to kill us and massacre the Lin family village. Shouldn't we kill a few of them? Du Xiaofu looked at the middle-aged leader and said, "Could it be that the Black Cavalry Corps is under the control of the Yu family?" Hearing this, the middle-aged leader's face changed. He said, "The Black Cavalry Corps is under the command of the Sage Temple. They are directly under the command of the Renhuang. Apart from the Renhuang, no one can mobilize them. No matter what the reason is, you must come with us for killing our people. After the investigation is done, if you are not in the wrong, you will not have to bear the main responsibility." "You mean, even if it is not my fault, as long as I kill the Black Cavalry Corps, I have to bear the responsibility?" Du Xiaofu said indifferently. He could tell from the man's words that the Black Cavalry Corps was not under the control of the Yu family. It was just that the Yu family had many people in the Black Cavalry Corps. Among the human race, not only the Black Cavalry Corps, no matter who it is forbidden to kill and bully the weak. Those who violate this rule will be punished. If the other party is guilty, the Sage Temple will judge, the middle-aged leader said. "Someone wanted to kill me. I killed him. Is that a crime?" Du Xiaofu asked, looking directly at the middle-aged leader. "This." The middle-aged leader was slightly stunned. He said in a low voice, "You have the ability to kill the other party. If they wanted to kill you, they would not be able to do so. You mean, the Black Cavalry Corps can kill me, but if I defend myself, I will be guilty. Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. He stared at the middle-aged leader and said, then I want to kill you now. If you dare to fight back, you will be guilty. Swish. The moment he finished speaking, Du Xiaofu's figure had already appeared in front of the middle-aged leader like a ghost. Chapter 23:17. Everything happened too quickly, the middle-aged leader didn't even have time to react and the figure in front of him expanded rapidly, appearing right in front of him in an instant. Even more shocking to him was the mount beneath him directly fell limp, whereas, the profound energy on his body was obstructed while his soul core trembled as if he'd fallen into a swamp. His entire body was confined, and he didn't have the slightest ability to resist. If I want to kill you now, it'll be as easy as flipping my palm. You won't even have the strength to retaliate. Du Xiaofu stopped in front of the middle-aged man, his feet hovering in the air as he stared at the middle-aged man with disdain. You have half an incense stick's worth of time to bring back the people I brought here. If you lose even a single strand of hair, I'll raise Jade Fall City to the ground. If you don't believe me, you can try. As his voice faded, Du Xiaofu landed on the ground, golden light surging beneath his feet. Rumble. As Du Xiaofu landed on the ground, the entire Jade Fall City shook as though there was an earthquake, causing all living beings to tremble uneasily. Awoo! All the demonic beast mounts let out low growls, their eyes filled with reverence as their bodies trembled. The members of the Black Cavalry Regiment trembled, that formless aura was too terrifying, almost causing their yuan spirits to shatter. After that, Du Xiaofu closed his eyes, no longer speaking. The one who was the most shocked was none other than the middle-aged leader. The seal on his body had disappeared, his yuan spirit was no longer suppressed, but the shock in his eyes was even more intense. His cultivation base was at the world domain realm, but in front of this young man, he was like an ant. Such a young man was simply too strong, one could only imagine how strong he was. This was definitely not an ordinary person. Sir, please wait a moment. The middle-aged leader came back to his senses, and his attitude changed. He signaled to Du Xiaofu, and then pulled up his demonic beast mount, and left with the people of the Black Cavalry Corps. The members of the Black Cavalry Regiment actually left. He seems to have killed the members of the Black Cavalry Regiment, and the Black Cavalry Regiment couldn't do anything about it. The aura just now was too strong. Who is that young man? Is he a paragon heaven chosen? Lin Village, I don't think I've heard of it before. Is he going to participate in the Divine Temple's test? With such strength, he should be able to pass the test, right? The surrounding onlookers came back to their senses. Low murmurs could be heard. They were very surprised. No one came near, but no one left either. They wanted to watch the show. They didn't know if the Black Cavalry Corps would bring people over. Du Xiaofu closed his eyes and rested. He did not move or shake, as if everything around him had nothing to do with him. However, Du Xiaofu was very clear that there was only a single early-stage true saint in the entire Jade Fall City. In any case, he had already decided to go all out. Even if he wanted to make a move, there was nothing to be afraid of. But then, Du Xiaofu opened his eyes, and a faint golden light flashed out. Young man, you are so strong. Are you really from the Lin family village? An old man appeared. There was a halo of light around him. It was like a divine halo. The space around him started to distort, and the surroundings started to blur. This was a spatial barrier. At this moment, the surrounding space was blocked, and the people outside couldn't see this place. This old man appeared to be in his 60s. He was clad in a light-colored robe, and his hair was jet black. His complexion was ruddy, and his eyes were especially bright and deep. Just a single glance at him would cause people to feel as though they were about to sink in. Du Xiaofu raised his eyes, and when he saw this old man, he was somewhat surprised. This old man was a true Saint Talisman master, and his Yuan divinity was extremely powerful. I'm from the Lin village. After that, Du Xiaofu replied. He wasn't nervous at all. He had long known that there were true saints in Jade Fall City, but this was the only one. The Lin village is a small place, right? I didn't expect there to be such an extraordinary young man here. Truly not simple. The old man smiled, staring at Du Xiaofu, as though he wanted to see through Du Xiaofu. But the result left him astonished. Senior, are you also from the Yu clan? Du Xiaofu asked. He didn't act arrogantly because he felt that this old man didn't have any malicious intent. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so polite. I'm the city lord of Jade Fall City. My surname is Sun, and I have nothing to do with the Yu clan. The old man spoke, but his gaze never left Du Xiaofu. You killed the members of the Black Cavalry unit. No matter what the reason is, there will be some trouble. Senior, do you wish to act? Du Xiaofu asked. Since you didn't kill anyone in my Jade Fall City, it has nothing to do with me. However, when you enter the Sage Hall tomorrow, you have to be more careful. The old man laughed. Many thanks for Senior's reminder. I don't believe that the Yu clan can cover the sky with a single hand. Du Xiaofu replied. From the looks of it, the city lord of Jade Fall City wasn't someone from the Yu clan. Since he could warn him, it had nothing to do with the Yu clan. The Yu clan can't cover the sky with a single hand. But young man, the Sage Hall is much more complicated than you imagine. The old man looked at Du Xiaofu and asked, Are you also going to the Sage Hall to participate in the test? Yes. Du Xiaofu nodded. There was nothing to hide. The person you brought with you will be fine in Jade Fall City. When you arrive at the Sage Hall tomorrow, if you are afraid that the Yu clan will cause trouble, you can go to the Sun clan first and say that I told you to go. There will naturally be people to take care of you. The old man said. Senior, why are you helping me? We don't seem to know each other, right? Du Xiaofu asked. In this world of cultivation where the strong preyed on the weak, he never believed in good intentions that didn't ask for anything in return. The old man looked at Du Xiaofu with a hint of surprise in his eyes. Indeed, we don't know each other. But for my Sun clan, there's no harm in doing so. We can even form good karma. Why not? Many thanks, Senior. Du Xiaofu said. He somewhat believed the words of the city lord. Young man, I hope you can get a good result in the test. Remember, if you need any help, you can go to the Sun clan. It won't be hard to find them in the Sage Hall. As the sound of his voice faded, the surrounding space rippled. After that, his figure vanished and everything returned to normal. And in the outside world, the space in front of him only warped for an instant. Jade Fall City, Great Hall. 2 rows of figures stood there, one on each side, each with a powerful aura. On the other side, there were people from the Black Cavalry Regiment. Their auras were sharp and fierce. Among them, there was the middle-aged leader who was intimidated by Du Xiaofu not long ago. Impudent, where did this brat come from? How dare he provoke the Sage Hall? Kill him. Near the head of the Great Hall, a man in his 50s sat there. His long hair draped over his shoulders, and he was clad in a brown robe. His gaze was gloomy, and cold light flickered in his eyes. Vice City Lord, that person is very strong. His origin seems to be extraordinary. The middle-aged leader of the Black Cavalry Regiment spoke. Humph, Lin Village. The old man slammed his hand on his chair, causing cracking sounds to ring out. He stood up and stared at the figures in the Great Hall. Wherever his gaze landed, the formless fluctuations of his aura would cause several people to go limp, their souls trembling. These people were none other than Lin Pu, Lin Yao, and the other members of the Lin village. They were brought to the Great Hall and had never seen so many experts before. They had no way to resist, and were completely suppressed. Is that person from your Lin village? The old man who was addressed as the vice city lord stared at Lin Pu and the others. His eyes shone with sharpness as his voice reverberated through the great hall. His voice was like thunder in the ears of Lin Pu and the others, deafening their souls. Let's leave this matter to the sage hall. Bring these people from the Lin village back. All of a sudden, a voice rang out in the great hall. Everyone's expressions changed. This was the voice of the city lord. This matter actually alarmed the city lord. City lord, this tiny Lin village actually dared to kill the members of the Black Cavalry Regiment. We can't let them off so easily, they must be killed. The vice city lord spoke in a heavy voice, not wanting to spare the people of the Lin village. You though, it's not your turn to make a decision in Jade Fall City. This matter will be decided by the Sage Hall. Since you dared to kill people in Jade Fall City, I won't spare you either. His voice grew sharper, shaking the entire great hall. Yudo's expression changed, his eyes twitched as his countenance turned extremely unsightly. In the brightly lit Jade Fall City, the moonlight was diluted. In a secluded courtyard, a lithe figure was illuminated by the moonlight. Her jet-black hair cascaded down to her slender waist. Her long and slender legs, as well as her round buttocks, accentuated her curves. Her face was like a hibiscus, and her eyes were like stars, flickering with the light of the dawn. Not simple, even I can't see through him. In the courtyard, an old man spoke, his eyes flashing with bewilderment. This was none other than the old man's surnamed son who claimed to be the city lord of Jade Fall City whom Du Xiaofu had met earlier. Maybe that person has some sort of secret technique to conceal himself. Otherwise, how could there be someone granduncle can't see through? The young woman turned her head, smiling at the old man. Her smile was like a rose blooming in the middle of the night, moving the hearts of people. Last Qin's little mouth is getting more and more eloquent. The old man smiled, his gaze filled with benevolence as he looked at Sun Qin. This time, you came out of seclusion and passed by Jade Fall City. After you return tomorrow, the future of the Sun clan will depend on you. Hearing this, Sun Qin's expression froze. Her red lips parted slightly. Those clans are all very strong, especially Sister Limo and Yuming. Lu Limo is already heavily injured. Even if the Sage Hall did their best to heal her, it's impossible for her to recover in a short few days. Her strength will be greatly affected, and her competitiveness will be the lowest. It's a pity. As for Yuming, he's extremely shrewd and talented. Maybe he's even stronger than we imagined. He won't be too far away from stepping into the Saint Realm. The old man's gaze narrowed as he sighed. If the Yu clan really succeeds this time, in addition to Lu Limo's conditions, no one will be able to contend against the Yu clan. Why would Sister Limo take a liking to Yuming? Sun Qin whispered. Last Qin, just do your best. With your talent and cultivation, it's not like you don't have a chance. The old man smiled, but his smile was somewhat reserved. How could he not know that this chance wasn't too great? If we really meet, Yuming will definitely have to pay an absolute price if he wants to defeat me. Sun Qin's pearly white teeth parted as her eyes shone with a strange light. Mysterious runes flickered, and a vast ancient aura pervaded the air. When we return tomorrow, pay attention to that young man. I have a feeling that he's not simple. The old man said. Chapter 23:18. That young man was not old, but he showed no fear when facing him. The formless aura around him gave him an indescribable feeling and even made him feel a little uneasy. How could such a young man be simple? He had a feeling that something was going to happen. I don't think I've heard of such a strong person coming out of the Lin family village. Perhaps he maintained his youthful appearance. Sun Qin said, but then her eyes revealed a look of doubt. With her granduncle's cultivation and eyesight, how could he be wrong? If the old man maintained his youthful appearance, he would definitely not be able to escape her granduncle's eyes. They had the same appearance, but the vitality of the young man and the old man could never be hidden. Perhaps that young man really had something extraordinary about him. Chin lass, don't underestimate anyone. There's always someone better than you. I heard that Lu Limo met a young man in the Beast Alliance who killed Luo Yu of the Luo Yu clan with a single move. I heard that the young man exposed his identity and went on a killing spree in the Beast Alliance. He killed several experts at the initial stage of the Saint Beast realm. Even Feng Jin was severely injured by him and left in the end. Such a young man has already surpassed Lu Limo and Yu Ming by too much. Sun Wu sighed. He was very shocked when he heard the news. He's so strong. There doesn't seem to be such a person among the younger generation of the human clan. Sun Qin's expression changed. She had been cultivating in seclusion outside and wasn't too clear about what had happened recently. However, she was certain that there was no such abnormal existence among the human clan. This matter still needs to be investigated. I only heard the news and didn't see it with my own eyes. Sun Wu opened his mouth and said to Sun Qin, Qin lass, the cracks outside have appeared again. Someone from the outside has already broken in. Granduncle, you mean that person is a human from the outside world? Sun Qin was stunned and her beautiful eyes changed. As the leader of the younger generation of the Sun family, she knew many secrets and was even more shocked. Maybe. Sun Wu raised his eyebrows slightly as light fluctuated in his eyes. He said, if a young man from the outside world can reach such a level, then the outside world is much stronger than here. I'm afraid many people can't wait and want to go out. On the street, it didn't take long for half an incense stick to burn to arrive. Du Xiaofu saw Lin Pu, Lin Yao, and the others. Everyone's faces were pale, and they were in a sorry state. They had been greatly shocked and frightened. They had never seen such a big scene before. After seeing Du Xiaofu, it was as if they had seen their backbone, and they immediately went to his side. Sir, the wormhole will open at dawn. There are still 4 hours left. Would you like to find a place to rest? It was the middle-aged leader of the Black Knights, but he was very polite to Du Xiaofu. No need. We'll just wait outside, Du Xiaofu said. The Domain Realm middle-aged man from the Black Cavalry Corps didn't say much either. He told Du Xiaofu where the wormhole would be tomorrow and left on his demonic beast mount. What's going on? The Black Cavalry Regiment actually retreated and didn't attack. The surrounding spectators were dumbfounded. They had thought that there would be a huge battle, but they didn't expect that not only did the Black Cavalry Regiment not attack, they even sent the young man back. This was definitely the first time they had seen such a thing. That young man must have a great background that can't be revealed. Someone murmured in a low voice. Otherwise, given the style of the Black Cavalry Regiment, how could they give up so easily? Lin Pu, Lin Yao, and the old man from the Lin village all stared with their eyes wide open. They initially thought that they were doomed this time around. There were simply too many experts in Jadefall City. Just their auras alone were enough to make them feel as though they were nothing more than ants. Who would have thought that these experts would actually be so respectful, as though they were wary of this mysterious young man? Sir, where's Lin Feng? Moments later, the old man from the Lin village finally calmed down and thought of Lin Feng. Don't worry, Lin Feng has already gone to the sacred hall. He won't be fine. There's no need to ask, he will naturally appear when the time comes. Du Xiaofu replied. Hearing this, although everyone from the Lin village was puzzled, no one asked any more questions. After interacting with this young man on the way here, they trusted him very much. The vast mountain range was rich in spiritual energy. Spiritual birds and beasts roamed the mountains and plains, and exotic flowers and plants covered the land. This was an extraordinary place for cultivation. It was not a place that ordinary forces could occupy. This was the place where the Lu family cultivated. Speaking of the Lu family, it was indeed extraordinary among the human race. However, the Lu family was not ranked among the super clans. They could not be compared to the Yu family, Sun family, or even the first-rate clans. The reason was simple. In order to be ranked among the first-rate clans, the clan must have at least a Saint Realm expert. However, the strongest expert in the Lu family was only at the half-step Saint Realm. Although they had many talents, without stepping into the Saint Realm, they could not rise to the next level and step into the ranks of the truly great clans. But because of the appearance of Lu Limo, the day she became a Nirvana Grandmaster, she shone brightly and shook the entire human race. Some experts in the Sacred Hall hailed her as the most talented junior in the recent tens of thousands of years. It was very likely that she would become the strongest expert of the human race in the future. With such talent and elegance, Lu Limo's appearance became the undisputed leader of the younger generation of the human race. This caused the Lu family's status in the human race to rise. Therefore, although the Lu family did not have any Saint Realm experts, any other great clans would have to give them some face. Bastard, you only know how to cause trouble. If they did not show mercy, you would not be able to get up now. Late at night, in the inner residence of the Sun family, an extraordinary middle-aged man with an angry look was scolding a young man in his late 20s. The young man was wearing a green robe, but it was not ostentatious. His figure was slender, and his long black hair was combed behind his head. A few strands of hair were draped over his shoulders. He was very handsome and looked like an elegant prince. However, at this moment, the young man's green robe had a few holes. His hair was a little messy, and he looked a little embarrassed. His face was pale, and it seemed that he had some minor injuries. The young man looked at the middle-aged man. He did not dare to look him in the eyes, but he said stubbornly, that person from the Yu family was arrogant and despotic. He even went around saying that my sister would be a member of the Yu family sooner or later. I could not stand it, so of course I had to do something. Anyway, I did nothing wrong. That Yu Ming is not worthy of my sister. You, the middle-aged man was furious, but his face darkened and he calmed down a little. He sighed and said, there are some things that you do not understand. If you had half of your sister's achievements, the Lu family would not have to do this. I am useless. If I had my sister's talent, Yu Ming would not have the chance to be so arrogant. The Yu family is obviously cheating. How shameless. The young man said angrily. You are always so sloppy. If you had half of your sister's hard work, or even half of your sister's hard work, you might be able to enter the top 300 of the Saint ranking. The middle-aged man said in a deep voice. The difference between his daughter and his son was too big. Sometimes, he couldn't help but think that if the talent and achievements of his two daughters and son could be reversed, perhaps the Lu family would be able to truly rise. It was not a good thing that such talent and achievements fell on the shoulders of his eldest daughter. The responsibility of the Lu family was too great, and he should not let his daughter bear it. I am also in the Saint ranking now. The young man whispered. Lu Mingma, you still have the nerve to mention it. There are 1,000 ranks in the Saint ranking, and you are only at 999. In these 2 days, the examination of the Divine Palace will begin. I am afraid that you will fall to God knows where. He looked down and wanted to kick him. He knew his son's talent. If he had worked harder, he would not be like this now. The comparison between his two daughters and his son was simply a joke in the Divine Palace. Lu Mingma subconsciously stepped back. His father was angry, so it was better to avoid him. Are your injuries okay? Staring at Lu Mingma who subconsciously stepped back, Lu Qingping's expression softened. He could not blame his son for this. If he could be stronger, he would not have to do this. He wanted his son to become a dragon, but he was not a dragon, so how could he want his son to become a dragon? It's okay, just a small injury. Lu Mingma said. There are already people arriving at the Divine Palace. All the great families are trying to rope in the young people with potential. I will leave this matter to you. Don't cause any more trouble. If you meet people from the great families, just avoid them. My Lu family has not reached that stage and cannot be compared to them. Lu Qingping sighed. Every time the divine palace examined, all the great families would try to rope in some young people with potential in advance to strengthen themselves. With the Lu family's current status, they would not be able to rope in any young people with potential. However, they were too lazy to see Lu Mingma walking around in front of them. If they went to rope in some young people, they would not cause any trouble. Got it. I will do it tomorrow morning. Lu Mingma said and left the inner residence. He did not want to be reprimanded by his father again. The middle-aged man did not move. He stood there blankly, deep in thought. After a long time, his expression was dignified and helpless. He muttered softly, could it be that the Lu family really has no choice this time? A moment later, in an ancient secret room. Lu Mingma's figure appeared in the secret room. She gazed at the graceful figure that was sitting cross-legged on the stone bed and said softly, "Sister, are you really going to marry into the Yu family and marry that guy, Yu Ming? I keep having the feeling that he's not a good person." On the stone bed, the beautiful figure sitting cross-legged on the stone bed was surrounded by a radiance. There were mysterious runes fluctuating. Then, the radiance dissipated, revealing a cold and enchanting face. She opened her mouth and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Her long eyelashes trembled a few times. When she opened her eyes, the radiance fluctuated and the aura fluctuated, causing the secret room to tremble. This woman was incomparably beautiful and looked somewhat similar to Lu Mingmo. It was Lu Limo. Looking at Lu Mingmo, a smile appeared on Lu Limo's cold and enchanting face. She said, "Did you fight with someone again? Are you alright?" "Sister, I am serious. That Yu Ming looks like a dignified person but he is definitely not a good person. You have to think carefully. You cannot marry him." Lu Mingma said. "I have given him a condition. At least he has not succeeded yet." Lu Limo looked at Lu Mingma and said. "In the entire younger generation of the human clan, apart from you, who else can be his opponent? You are seriously injured and cannot defeat him." Lu Mingma said anxiously. "Let's go back. I have to recover as soon as possible. If father knows that you are here, I am afraid that he will not forgive you." Lu Limo's red lips were still a little pale. She was smiling. "Sister, you have to think carefully." Lu Mingma helplessly left. In the secret room, Lu Limo was sitting cross-legged. Her eyes were blurred. She had no choice. Even her master could not say anything. She could not refuse anymore. She could only give him her last condition. Immediately, she thought of that lecher. He had been rude to her since they first met. He had even wanted to take her as a servant. Since she was born, no one had dared to speak to her like that. However, that lecher had taken liberties with her. He had hidden his cultivation and had stepped into the saint realm at such a young age. Thinking back to that guy's playful and unruly smile, Lu Limo could not help but think that if that lecher appeared, with his character, he would definitely not be able to control himself. He would definitely teach Yu Ming a lesson. If he defeated Yu Ming in the end, it would be better than marrying Yu Ming. That lecher is also not a good person. Lu Limo regained her senses and her pale cheeks flushed red. She didn't know why she was reminded of that lecher. He didn't look good and had so many beautiful women around him. He was definitely not a good person. Why would she compare him with Yu Ming? Was it really Yu Ming who saved me? Lu Limo thought back. That Saint Beast Realm expert was too strong. She was not his opponent even if she used all her strength. She was unable to cross the huge gap between them. The gap between them was too huge. At the last moment, she felt a familiar aura. However, she did not see it clearly and fainted. When she woke up, she only knew that Yu Ming and the other experts of the Yu clan had risked their lives to save her. Yu Ming was also severely injured. Now, the entire sacred palace was spreading the news that Yu Ming had risked his life to save her. Lu Limo felt that something was wrong. I need to recover as soon as possible. Then, Lu Limo's expression returned to its usual coldness. She sat cross-legged with a calm expression. She formed hand seals and continued to heal her injuries. As long as she could recover to 90%, there was still hope. Although it was impossible in a few days, she had no other choice. That Lin clan is actually struggling at death's door. They are still jumping around. In the night, in the main hall of the Yu clan, an elder's face was gloomy. The jade slip in his hand was broken. It emitted a dim light and then turned into dust. Chapter 23:19. Pass down the order, those from the Lin clan must not participate in the test. Be careful, don't let this small matter affect the big picture. After that, the old man spoke, a cold light flashed in his eyes. The next morning. When the darkness before dawn passed, the first ray of sunlight rose from the eastern horizon. In the entire Jade Fall city, countless auras were awakened, soaring into the sky. Rumble. In the vast square of Jade Fall city, a spatial wormhole opened, causing the space to distort. Blinding light shone, illuminating half the sky. The spatial wormhole has opened, we can enter the Sage Hall now. I heard that the Sage Hall has gathered all the paragons of the human race. Experts are as common as the clouds, experts from all over the world have gathered here. The entire Jade Fall city was in an uproar. To most of the people here, this was their first time entering the Sage Hall. Du Xiaofu stood at the front of the crowd, with Lin Pu, Lin Yao, and the others beside him. They stared at the spatial wormhole that opened, and it didn't seem any different from the outside world. With Du Xiaofu's current cultivation base and strength, he was also able to construct a spatial wormhole. It was just that the stability of the spatial wormhole would be different for those with different cultivation bases. Simply put, the stronger one's cultivation base, the safer the spatial wormhole would be. Wormholes weren't absolutely safe. Once they encountered a spatial collapse, the people inside the wormhole would be in grave danger. This time, it's the most lively event in the entire human race. Those of the younger generation who can pass the test will be able to stay in the Sage Hall and obtain the best cultivation resources. It's only a matter of time before they step into the ranks of the strongest. This time, it's not just a test of talent, but more importantly, it's to select a new human emperor. The new human emperor will be selected from the younger generation of paragons. This is a grand occasion for paragons. Although we won't be able to participate, it's still the greatest event in the entire human race. We'll be able to witness the new human emperor. Discussions broke out in the square, causing it to be extremely noisy. Du Xiaofu was astonished. From the discussions in the surroundings, he knew that there would be a new human emperor this time. Could it be that the human sovereign was also born from competition? Du Xiaofu thought to himself. He did not know what conditions were needed to become the human sovereign. Du Xiaofu did not think too much about the position of Renhuang inside. As long as he could enter the Sage Hall, his goal would be considered accomplished. Awu, the familiar roars of demonic beasts could be heard. The Black Cavalry Regiment had appeared. Their auras were vast and sharp. Everywhere they passed, the crowd was in an uproar. At this moment, the Black Cavalry Regiment was escorting a young lady who was about 20 years old. She was tall and had a curvy figure. Her face was like a lotus flower, and she was very attractive. What a beautiful woman! She's so beautiful. Heavens, that's the young paragon of the Sun clan, Sun Qin. She actually appeared in Jade Fall City. The crowd cried out in alarm and retreated one after another. Everyone lowered their heads with reverence, not daring to look directly at him. Nirvana supremacy, immortal and imperishable. Du Xiaofu's gaze flickered as he stared at the alluring woman. This was a young Nirvana paragon. Her aura was hidden very deeply, and ordinary people would not be able to detect it. However, it could not escape Du Xiaofu's sharp senses. She had reached the level of immortal and imperishable. Lu Limo, Yu Ming, and this Sun Qin were not simple. Du Xiaofu's heart stirred. No wonder the human race could rise and the Beast Alliance did not dare to easily invade. From the younger generation, it could be seen that the human race was filled with experts, and there were definitely existences that the Beast Alliance would be wary of. Sun Qin was riding on a demonic beast mount. She had a noble aura, and her eyes were as bright as the stars. Her skin was as white as snow. When she arrived at the spatial wormhole, her eyes landed on Du Xiaofu. However, some doubt immediately flashed across Sun Qin's eyes without leaving a trace. The young man that her granduncle had mentioned gave her an indescribable feeling. He was wearing a slightly tattered short shirt that exposed his faint purplish gold skin. He seemed to have an invisible aura as he quietly stood there. However, when she looked at him, her Yuan spirit actually faintly revealed a kind of inexplicable trembling. Although this trembling disappeared in an instant, it was enough to make Sun Qin feel astonished. She had never felt such a feeling before. Even when she met Lu Limo and the current human emperor, she did not feel such a feeling. Could it be an illusion? Sun Qin muttered, her expression did not change. She was noble and moving, causing countless gazes in the surroundings to tremble. Please. The middle-aged leader of the Black Cavalry Regiment leaped off his mount. He was extremely respectful before Sun Qin, indicating for Sun Qin to be the first to enter the spatial wormhole. With a light tap of her foot, Sun Qin's slender and moving figure rose into the air. Like the most moving arc, she streaked across the void and directly entered the wormhole. Sir, please. After exiting the spatial wormhole, there will be arrangements and instructions from the Sacred Hall. After entering the Sacred City, you can directly go for the test. I hope that Sir's name will resound throughout the Sacred City. The middle-aged leader of the Black Cavalry Regiment spoke to Du Xiaofu, his tone extremely polite. Let's go. Du Xiaofu did not stand on ceremony. He waved his hand to Lin Pu and the others behind him, and with a tap of his foot, his silhouette shot into the spatial wormhole. Lin Pu and the others were extremely excited. They were about to arrive at the Sacred Hall, the sacred ground of the human race. They were finally about to get what they wanted. Everyone, line up and enter the spatial wormhole. The experts of the Black Cavalry Regiment had already started to maintain order, allowing the people of Falling Jade City to enter the spatial wormhole. Some of the elders and middle-aged men and women all had a jade slip in their hands, allowing them to enter the spatial wormhole. This was a jade slip of passage, and its value was not low. There were too many people entering the spatial wormhole to head to the Sacred Hall, and the spatial wormhole was unable to withstand such a huge wave of people. Hence, there was an absolute limit. Those of the younger generation participating in the test could pass through, but those who sent them off had to pay a hefty price. They had to spend a huge sum of money to purchase a jade slip of passage. No one dared to fish in troubled waters. The deterrence of the Black Cavalry Regiment was definitely extraordinary. No one from the Black Cavalry Regiment approached Du Xiaofu and the others from the Lin village behind him to ask for a jade slip of passage. They were already so intimidated that they could only close one eye and close the other. Inside the spatial wormhole, Lin Pu, Lin Yao, and the others were all extremely curious. This was the first time they had entered a spatial wormhole, and they had only heard of it before. Not long after, about an hour, the light in front of them grew more and more dazzling. They had already arrived at the exit. Du Xiaofu reminded Lin Pu and the others as they flew out of the spatial wormhole. As soon as they came out of the spatial wormhole, the rich spiritual qi of heaven and earth assailed their nostrils. It carried an ancient aura, and it was much richer than in the cultivation grounds of the Yu clan. What was reflected in Du Xiaofu's eyes next surprised Du Xiaofu. Originally, Du Xiaofu thought that there would be a huge square outside the spatial wormhole. He did not expect that it would be on a vast mountain range. The mountains rose and fell, and towering trees were densely packed below. The sea of trees rose and fell, and there were demonic beasts roaring and ferocious birds flying in the sky. There were also many figures stepping into the void, emanating powerful auras. Up ahead, Du Xiaofu saw the young supreme of the Sun clan, Sun Qin. She was carried by a snow-white spiritual bird, and there were many cultivators who came forward to welcome her. Their auras were very powerful, and many people around them looked at her in awe. You can come with me to the Sun clan. Suddenly, such a clear sound transmission fell into Du Xiaofu's ears. It was very pleasant to the ear, like the cry of a lark. Du Xiaofu glanced at Sun Qin, feeling somewhat surprised. This was Sun Qin's voice transmission. Many thanks, but there's no need for that. Du Xiaofu transmitted his voice back. Yesterday, the city lord of Jade Falls City was someone from the Sun clan. However, Du Xiaofu didn't think too much about it. Most probably, the Sun clan wouldn't be inferior to the Yu clan. They would definitely have experts overseeing them. After arriving at the Sun clan, although he would be able to guard against the Yu clan, it wouldn't be convenient for him to do things. Let alone this time around, Du Xiaofu didn't come here to avoid the Yu clan. He wasn't afraid of trouble. Upon hearing that, Sun Qin's countenance darkened. Given her attitude, she wouldn't have placed an unfamiliar young man in her heart. But earlier, she didn't know why, but she actually opened her mouth. Sun Qin didn't expect that she would be rejected by the other party when she took the initiative to invite him. Since when would there be anyone who would reject her? Most probably, there wouldn't be anyone in the entire human race who would do so. As long as she casually opened her mouth, it was unknown how many young geniuses would rush over like tidal waves. However, that young man rejected her without any hesitation. Let's go. Looking at Du Xiaofu, Sun Qin's gaze was complicated. There was a hint of stubbornness and arrogance, as well as a hint of anger. She then waved her hands and left. The snow-white spirit bird flapped its wings and soared into the skies. Everyone, head ahead. The Saint City is 1,000 miles away. There will be people making arrangements. This voice reverberated through the void as people from the Black Knight Corps appeared. Whoosh whoosh, the sound of the wind breaking rang out. Some of them were already familiar with this as they flew ahead. There were even some who were welcomed and left on demonic beasts. Let's go. Du Xiaofu waved his hands and followed behind, allowing Lin Pu and the others to follow. This was only the periphery. The wormhole didn't lead directly into the Saint Palace. Perhaps it was for the sake of defending against enemies, but it was indeed much safer this way. If enemies were to invade, as long as they controlled the wormhole, they would be able to enter the Saint Palace directly. Along the way, the forests rose and fell. In order to take care of Lin Pu and the others, Du Xiaofu maintained his speed at a slow pace. Along the way, many figures overtook them like bolts of lightning. It seemed as though there wasn't just a single wormhole in the vicinity. Up ahead, there were more and more figures, as well as powerful auras. Awoo! Up in the skies, there were demonic beast mounts howling. Those who were able to ride on demonic beast mounts here were all from the various superfamilies. Most likely, their statuses weren't simple at all, and they were extremely haughty as well. Not bothering to avoid others, they soared through the skies. A gigantic bird that looked like an eagle flapped its wings and soared through the skies. Its feathers were as sharp as blades, shining brightly with a sharp aura as it tore through the void. There were many figures riding on it, and they were not far away from Du Xiaofu and the others. As they soared through the skies, the wind howled, nearly knocking Lin Pu and Lin Yao down from the skies. Make way! Don't block the way! A loud voice rang out as a gigantic wolf soared through the skies. Its entire body glowed with light, with a wingspan of over 10 meters. There were many people riding on it, and their auras were extremely sharp. The source of the voice was none other than that gigantic wolf. The eyes of the gigantic wolf gleamed with sharpness as it soared through the skies, rushing straight for Du Xiaofu and the others. It had no intentions of dodging at all. Did I give you guys face? Du Xiaofu was enraged. These people were truly arrogant. He instantly stabilized himself and slammed his palm out behind him. Bang! As Du Xiaofu slammed his palm out, spatial ripples manifested in the air, directly sweeping towards the gigantic wolf. The two of them collided, causing a thunderous boom to ring out in the air. The gigantic wolf had no way to turn around, and was directly smashed into the ground. Rumble! The earth quaked as the gigantic wolf smashed into the ground. Its body was already in tatters, and it was already on the verge of death. Over a dozen figures immediately soared into the sky from the gigantic wolf. Most of them were young, but there were a few middle-aged men and women with sharp auras. These people immediately glared at Du Xiaofu's group with dark and sharp gazes. They seemed to have sensed the auras of Lin Pu, Lin Yao, and the others, and did not take them seriously at all. One of them roared at Du Xiaofu, "Little bastard, you dare to attack the mounts of my Tao clan? You're courting death." As soon as he finished speaking, an old man in his 50s charged out. A vast aura suddenly rippled as he slammed his palm towards Du Xiaofu. His killing intent was sharp, and he showed no mercy at all. Humph! Du Xiaofu snorted. The so-called forbidden from killing each other in the fearsome grounds was probably just empty talk. In the world of cultivators, the strong were revered. In the face of absolute strength, so what if you killed them? Everything depended on one's strength and background. This could be seen from the old man's attack. Du Xiaofu made his move. A finger shot out and pierced through space. The old man had no idea what was going on, and a bloody hole appeared between his eyebrows. It was clean and neat. In an instant, Du Xiaofu's figure appeared beside the old man's corpse. A few Qianquan bags fell into his hand, and he threw the corpse into the air. He looked at the dozen people who were already in a daze and said, "Hand over all your Qianquan bags, or you'll end up like that old man." As their souls trembled and their eyes filled with shock and fear, the dozen people took out all their Qianquan bags. Although Lin Pu and the others had seen this many times, they still could not help but tremble at the scene before them. Was this mysterious lord robbing them? After putting away the Qianquan bags, Du Xiaofu swaggered off. When the surrounding creatures saw this scene, they were all dumbfounded and did not dare to come closer. However, the journey was not short. Along the way, there were a few groups of arrogant and domineering fellows who met Du Xiaofu. They were arrogant and overbearing. The result was already decided. Du Xiaofu was merciless. He killed a few people and took away all their Qianquan bags. Gu Gu, Lin Pu, Lin Yao, and the rest of the Lin family village could not help but swallow their saliva. They were about to reach the holy city, which was equivalent to being at the foot of the divine temple. This mysterious lord actually dared to do this. Did he really not care about the divine temple? Oh whoa! Suddenly, the void in front of them was filled with aura. Dozens of demonic beast mounts rushed out. They were ferocious and ferocious. On top of them were experts from the Black Cavalry Corps in black armor. Every one of them was extraordinary. It's the Black Cavalry Corps. The appearance of dozens of experts from the Black Cavalry Corps immediately attracted the attention of many creatures in the vicinity. They all stopped in the void to watch. The dozens of Black Cavalry Corps were too powerful, especially the old man at the front. The talisman patterns on his black armor emitted a dazzling light. He was riding on the most ferocious demonic beast mount. His aura was vast, and he was at the Master Region realm. The old man swept his gaze across the crowd. Then, he fixed his gaze on Du Xiaofu, Lin Pu, and the other Lin family village disciples. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he said in a deep voice, "It's them. How dare they kill people from the Black Cavalry Corps? Take them back. Awo." As soon as the old man finished speaking, the dozens of experts from the Black Cavalry Corps behind him, including more than a dozen cultivators who had reached the domain realm, stepped out on their mounts. Their auras erupted as they surrounded Du Xiaofu and the others. Oh no! Lin Pu and the others could feel that this group of experts from the Black Cavalry Corps was extraordinary. They were exceptionally powerful. It seemed like the Black Cavalry Corps had been waiting for them to come. They definitely had something to do with the Yu family. Is the Yu family abusing their power? I wonder if the Black Cavalry Corps is acting on orders. A faint voice sounded. Not far away in the void, a spirit bird flew across the sky. There were many figures riding on it, but they were all very young. At the front was a young man in luxurious green clothes. He was tall and slender, and his long black hair was combed to the back of his head. A few strands of hair hung over his shoulders. He was very handsome, and he looked like an elegant young master. However, he wasn't ostentatious. He looked at the dozens of Black Cavalry Corps members. He was the one who had spoken just now. When he heard this voice, Du Xiaofu also looked over and saw the young man in luxurious green clothes. Then, his gaze fell on the two women behind the young man in luxurious green clothes. One of them was about 26 or 27 years old. She was beautiful and had an alluring figure. The other one was slightly younger, probably not even 20 years old. Her face carried a hint of immaturity, and her beautiful black hair was tied into a ponytail. Her figure was tall, and her long skirt was unable to cover up her graceful curves. She was also a Nirvana supremacy, and her natural talent was extraordinary. The Lu family. Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered. He remembered the two women. The older one seemed to be called Hongyu. A few days ago, after these two women interrogated the Yu family killed the middle-aged follower, and he took the opportunity to escape. At this moment, with the arrival of Lu Mingma, Lu Hongyu, and Lu Yunma, the Black Cavalry Corps members were stunned and moved. Even the leading master's expression changed slightly. He looked at Lu Mingma and the others and squeezed out a smile on his gloomy face. He said, "So it's the nephews of the Lu family. Vice Commander of the Black Cavalry Corps, a dignified expert of the Yu family. I don't dare to accept such a title. It's just that these people look unfamiliar and their cultivation isn't very strong. They should have just entered, but the Vice Commander of the Black Cavalry Corps has personally come to capture them. I don't know what crime they committed, but there are orders from above. Could it be that the Yu family is using their power to avenge private wrongs?" said Lu Mingma. He was displeased when he saw the Yu family. In any case, the Yu family couldn't do anything to him, so he didn't dare to fall out with them. Seeing that the Yu family actually had a Master Realm expert leading the Black Cavalry Corps, and they were all from the Yu family, to deal with a few unfamiliar outsiders, Lu Mingma guessed that it was definitely not a good thing. Here's another huge chapter. I'm done updating today. Chapter 23:20. Lu Mingma looked at Du Xiaofu's group and said, "How did you offend the Yu clan? If the Yu clan bullies you, I'll protect you. I'll let my sister report this to the human emperor and give you justice." The smile on the Yu clan's main domain expert's face gradually vanished when he heard Lu Mingma's words. He stared at Lu Mingma solemnly and said, "Nephew from the Lu clan, it's best that you don't interfere in the matters of the Black Cavalry Corps. Wholeheartedly cultivating is the right path. There are some matters that you can't interfere in or cause trouble for. The Black Cavalry Regiment belongs to the Divine Palace. If they don't act on their own, anyone has the right to supervise them. I, Lu Mingma, am not a coward," Lu Mingma said. He wasn't afraid of anything, but he didn't like the Yu clan. If the Yu clan dared to make a move against him, then his sister would have a reason to reject the Yu clan. Lu Mingmo. Are they siblings? Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. Lu Mingmo and Lu Limo should be siblings. However, his cultivation and talent seemed to be too far away from Lu Limo's. However, from Lu Limo's words, Du Xiaofu could tell that the Lu clan and the Yu clan were only on the surface. More importantly, the people from the Black Cavalry Regiment were part of the Yu clan's forces. As expected, the Yu clan's people had come. Brother, this matter has nothing to do with you. Don't interfere. I'm not afraid of these shameless Yu clan bastards. Du Xiaofu said to Lu Mingmo. He was Lu Limo's younger brother. He seemed a little impulsive, so he didn't want to implicate him. Don't be afraid. As long as the Yu clan uses their power to avenge private wrongs, I'll definitely protect you. Let's see what the Yu clan can do to me. Lu Mingmo was a little surprised by Du Xiaofu's words. Was this brat really not afraid of the Yu clan's experts? Or was he scared out of his wits? However, he had made up his mind to provoke the Yu clan today. If the Yu clan attacked him, then he would have a reason to make a big fuss. I'm really fine. A few shameless bastards from the Yu clan can't do anything to me. Du Xiaofu laughed. This Lu Mingmo was really a hothead. His character was completely different from that of Lu Limo. When they heard Du Xiaofu, Lu Mingmo, Lu Hongyu, and the others couldn't help but be stunned. That's an expert at the Overlord region, yet this fellow's tone is actually so arrogant. Is there something wrong with his head? Bastard! The old man from the Yu clan had been furious for a long time. He kept calling them shameless bastards from the Yu clan. No one in the entire human race dared to speak to the Yu clan like that, not even behind their backs. Now, this young man was provoking the entire Yu clan. Killing him in front of a Ren Huang would not be a problem, let alone now. Kill them all. The main region realm expert from the Yu clan laughed coldly, and the killing intent in his eyes was sharp and fierce. Originally, he still had some misgivings and couldn't attack openly. However, this was an opportunity now. Since he dared to provoke the Yu clan in public, it was entirely possible for him to kill him directly. Aowu, these dozens of experts of the Black Cavalry Corps were either disciples of the Yu family or trusted aides nurtured by the Yu family. They had long been unable to restrain their anger. They clamped their legs on their mounts and unleashed their auras. Their demonic beasts roared deafeningly as they directly charged forward. Rumble. The void trembled, and the earth shook. These were the top experts of the Black Cavalry Corps. They attacked together, and their auras tore through the void and shattered space. Just the demonic beast mounts alone were already extraordinary. Yu clan, let's officially begin. Du Xiaofu's eyes flashed with fierce killing intent as he watched the dozens of experts from the Black Cavalry Corps charge towards him in an instant. He flicked his sleeve, and the illusory saber formation in his right palm was activated. Dense saber rays were activated, and they cut through the void as talismans erupted. Buzz, wind and thunder clanged as the illusory saber formation was activated. Dense saber rays tore through the void, and they contained the 9 palaces, yin-yang, and 6 directions. It was extremely profound. Swish. 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 Bang. 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 The void shattered, and blood mist poured out. The void exploded, and dozens of demonic beast mounts and experts from the Black Cavalry Corps, including more than 10 martial domain realm cultivators, were killed in an instant. Their bodies and souls were destroyed. Everyone's eyes trembled. Lin Pu and the others from the Lin family village thought that they were doomed this time. Under the ferocious and terrifying auras, they did not even have the courage to fight back. However, they did not expect that in an instant, those ferocious experts would explode in front of them. Their bodies and souls were destroyed, and they could not withstand a single blow. Lu Mingmo, Lu Hongyu, Lu Yunma, and the other onlookers were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. They were so shocked that they could not recover from their shock. The main region realm expert from the Yu clan was also shocked. His sneer was replaced by astonishment, and his murderous gaze was deeply lifeless in an instant. However, it only took an instant for the old man to recover from his shock. Everything had happened too quickly. The dozens of people from the Black Cavalry Corps had been killed in an instant. "Kid, you're courting death." The old man roared as he rose into the air from the ferocious beast. His entire body was covered in dazzling talisman inscriptions that burned like divine flames. His aura was vast, and talisman inscriptions were everywhere. They rippled like an ocean, and dazzling light filled half of the void. It was brilliant and resplendent. Boom! The old man attacked with his full strength. How could the young man who had killed dozens of experts from the Black Cavalry Corps in an instant be a simple person? He did not have the time to think too much, but he knew that he had to attack with his full strength. Too powerful. The old man did not hold back his aura at all. His aura was extremely powerful. Many of the onlookers in the surroundings were terrified. Those with weaker cultivations directly fell to the ground and let out miserable cries. They were not even affected by the shockwaves. Rumble. The main region realm expert of the Yu clan attacked. He shot through the air like a falcon pouncing on its prey. He waved his hand, and talisman inscriptions interweaved like lightning. The light was like silver snakes dancing wildly in the sky as they shot towards Du Xiaofu. Kill! At this moment, white light surged out of Du Xiaofu's eyes. His hair danced and stood on end. His killing intent was awe-inspiring, and his eyes were terrifying. He shook his arm, and dense saber lights revolved around him as he directly pounced over. Rumble. The main region realm expert of the Yu clan was trapped by the saber lights. He used his full strength to activate his martial vein and vein spirit. Roar. The main region realm expert's vein spirit was a ferocious tiger. It was like a living creature that was about to pounce. It tore through the void and let out a deafening roar that shook the heavens. One had to admit that the main region realm expert of the Yu clan was absolutely extraordinary. He was very powerful. However, Du Xiaofu was just playing with him, making him deliberately stall for time. Du Xiaofu didn't want to expose his true strength as soon as he attacked. There would always be benefits if he used his cultivation to numb the Yu clan. If he exposed his true strength in an instant, it would only be harmful. After a while, Du Xiaofu increased his strength. The saber light tore through the air, and the illusory saber formation erupted. The terrifying saber light was unstoppable. It shattered the main region realm expert's ferocious tiger vein spirit. The saber light pierced through the black armor on his body and directly exploded. Blood mist poured out. Du Xiaofu activated the illusory saber formation. Wherever the saber light passed, it was unstoppable. It could cut through everything, and it directly killed the main region realm expert of the Yu clan. Everyone present was extremely shocked at this moment. Everyone's hair stood on end. Lu Mingma, Lu Yunma, Lu Hongyu, and the others looked at that figure, and their hearts trembled. He was too strong. No wonder he didn't take the main region realm expert of the Yu clan seriously. Such a young man was definitely at the supreme being level. Du Xiaofu was in the air. He put away the illusory saber formation. At the same time, many Qianquan bags appeared in his hands, and he directly put them away. Du Xiaofu didn't hold back at all after killing a few people from the Yu clan. In any case, he would encounter the Yu clan sooner or later on this trip to the Divine Palace. He might as well take the initiative to gain the upper hand. Killing one was killing, and killing a few more was also killing. Brother, I'm going to the Divine Palace to take the test, but I'm not familiar with it. Can you introduce me? Du Xiaofu looked at the stunned Lu Mingma on the spiritual bird. The holy city was in front of them. He had heard that the divine palace was in the holy city, but he didn't know about the test. He wanted to know more. You're going to take the test? Lu Mingma was very surprised. Strictly speaking, the test was only for those who hadn't been tested. This terrifying young man in front of him had already reached such a level of strength. Could it be that he hadn't been tested? Of course, I'm going to the divine palace to take the test. Du Xiaofu nodded. I see. I'll take you there, and I'll tell you along the way. When we reach the holy city, it will save you a lot of time. Lu Mingma patted his chest and said with certainty. Mingma. Second brother. Hearing this, Lu Hongyu and Lu Yunma's beautiful faces changed. This young man in front of them had killed so many experts of the Black Cavalry Corps. Not to mention the Divine Palace, the Yu clan would definitely not let this matter go. If the Lu clan walked together with these people, it would definitely cause a lot of trouble. Will killing the people of the Yu clan bring you trouble? Du Xiaofu asked. Looking at the two's expressions, it was obviously troublesome. Lu Mingma ignored Lu Hongyu and Lu Yunma and continued to pat his chest to Du Xiaofu. It's okay. There are no good people in the Yu clan. Trust me, I'll take you to the test. It will save you a lot of time. It will be a lot more convenient. Du Xiaofu pondered for a moment. It was indeed necessary to understand the situation. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. Then I'll have to trouble you. Du Xiaofu nodded and slightly smiled. Come on, I'll take you to the holy city and take you to the divine palace for the test. Lu Mingma was very happy to be able to meet such a young expert, especially since the other party had killed the people of the Yu clan. Du Xiaofu didn't stand on ceremony and directly took Lin Pu and the others to the back of the huge spiritual bird. My name is Lu Mingma, a disciple of the Lu clan. This is my third sister, Lu Mingma, and my cousin, Lu Hongyu. The spiritual bird flapped its wings and broke through the sky at an extremely fast speed. Lu Mingma was very enthusiastic as he introduced the people around him and asked Du Xiaofu, may I know this brother's name? Du Xiaofu faintly nodded towards Lu Yunma and Lu Hongyu. So that little sovereign was Lu Limo's younger sister. No wonder her heavenly talent was extraordinary. However, it was strange that Lu Mingma was inferior to her elder sister and younger sister. Chapter 23-21 Rock Emperor. Du Xiaofu didn't plan to hide his identity anymore. The people here didn't know him anyway, but he didn't plan to reveal his real name. Many people from the Sanlu Kyushu had already entered the fearsome grounds. Who knew if there were others who had already entered the fearsome grounds? Rock Emperor, what a domineering name. Hearing that, Lu Mingma was very surprised. Such a name made people's hearts tremble. It was inexplicably domineering. Lin Pu and the other disciples of the Lin family village were also secretly moved. They just knew the name of this mysterious person before them. On the other hand, Lu Hongyu and Lu Yunma looked at Du Xiaofu with surprise in their eyes. They secretly sized him up, as if they didn't quite believe it. With Lu Mingma and the others accompanying him, no one came forward to disturb him. Then, Du Xiaofu learned a lot about the divine palace from Lu Mingma. Ahead of them was the holy city, and the divine palace was located in the depths of the holy city. There were very few people who could truly step into the divine palace. Many of the strongest people of the human race were there. The divine palace's examination was in the holy city. The so-called examination was a test of one's talent, and potential. A powerful person of the human race had once left behind an examination stone. Communicating with the examination stone would reveal one's talent on it. Only a supreme genius could leave their name on it. As long as one became a supreme genius and left their name on it, they would be able to enter the divine palace and receive guidance and the best cultivation resources from the divine palace's experts. There is a ranking on the examination stone. There are only 1,000 places. My sister, Lu Mingma, has always been ranked first. Her name is known throughout the human race. Lu Mingma was very proud. That was his sister, the leader of the younger generation. She was a Nirvana Grandmaster. What kind of talent was she? Near the holy city, there were a few large clans of the human race. The most revered were the 8 great clans. The Yu clan and the Sun clan were one of them. There was also the Jiang clan, Ji clan, Feng clan, Ren clan, Yao clan, and the First clan. The 8 great families were the strongest 8 great families in the human race. Rumor had it that there were super powerhouses in each of them. They were the 8 great mountains that defended the entire human race against the Beast Alliance. Not long after, Du Xiaofu saw the outline of a vast ancient city in front of him. Surrounding it was a mountain range filled with purple mist, faintly giving off an ancient aura. Talisman array, what a powerful talisman array. Before he even got close, Du Xiaofu already felt the existence of a powerful talisman formation. Once it was activated, it would probably be enough to turn the universe upside down. As they approached the outer region of the mountain range, they noticed that those of unknown origins were unable to enter. It was as if they were afraid that those from the Beast Alliance would sneak in. Even with Lu Mingma's status, he was still interrogated. However, it wasn't complicated and he was soon released. However, before entering the city, Lu Hongyu secretly said something to a young man beside her. The young man immediately left and did not follow the crowd. Finally, Du Xiaofu saw the ancient city. The towering city walls were erected on the surrounding winding mountains. It was over 1,000 feet tall and towered into the depths of the clouds. It was majestic and majestic. Clouds flowed and rays of light fluctuated. It was like a fairyland. The city walls were towering and the huge city gate was like a heavenly gate. The 2 words Sacred City were carved on it. There were even powerhouses guarding the city gate. After passing through the city gate, Du Xiaofu was secretly shocked. This city was too huge. There were towering and majestic palaces everywhere. Those palaces were as huge as mountains. The densely packed palaces extended to the end of the line of sight. They clustered together to form this huge and majestic ancient city. It was as if it was towering above the clouds. It was so huge that one couldn't see the end of it. Standing on the streets, one would look like an ant. This is the sacred city. Over the countless years, the almighty powerhouses of the human race had built it. This place is the sacred ground and lifeline of the human race. Normally, the supreme sky prides and the powerhouses of the various major families reside here. Only during grand occasions, the idle people are allowed to enter. Lu Mingma looked at the shocked faces of the crowd and explained to them. Such an ancient city was modeled and majestic. The continuous palaces were like undulating mountains. Multicolored light filled the air and the clouds were rising. The vast and ancient aura in the city filled the air. It made people feel reverence for no reason. Lin Pu and the others had long wanted to kneel down and worship it. As expected of the sacred ground of the human race. You can't see it in the outside world. Du Xiaofu was impressed and amazed at this moment. Such a place was extraordinary. No wonder the younger generation of the human race in this fearsome land were not simple. In the ancient city, there was a bustling and lively atmosphere everywhere. It was bustling with activity. The densely packed buildings were mixed with some spiritual mountains. The scenery was beautiful and there was a universe inside. It made Du Xiaofu sigh. Such a place was not something that could be built overnight. It took too much effort. Only the entire human race could have such a place. It was not something that could be done by just one family or sect. Boom! The void trembled. A golden-robed man appeared directly in the sky above the sacred city and looked down at everyone. This golden-robed man was extraordinary and had an arrogant expression. Then, a streamer flew directly from outside the city and appeared not far away from the golden-robed man. The newcomer was a tall and slender man. His light red hair was suffused with radiance, and his eyes were as clear as the stars. His temperament was extraordinary, and he carried an extraordinary charm that was enough to cause ripples in the hearts of many women present. When the golden-robed man and the red-haired man appeared, their expressions were very calm. Their gazes swept across the street indifferently, causing the living beings below to feel an invisible pressure descend. They trembled inwardly, and for some reason, the noisy street fell silent. It's Ren Yuan from the Ren family and Ji Qianqing from the Ji family. On the street, some people whispered in shock. Their eyes were full of awe. They are young sovereigns. They are very powerful. The eyes of the crowd were full of yearning. They were two young sovereigns. They were young, but they had become top experts, surpassing countless of the older generation. Many young people who came to participate in the test felt the two invisible auras and could not help but feel frustrated. They were only here to take the test, but the two young men had become famous young sovereigns of the human race. Boom! Another person appeared. The void trembled as if the earth was shaking and the mountains were shaking. The blood of the creatures on the street was surging. A streamer came rapidly. It was unbelievably fast. In an instant, it appeared in the void and stood opposite Ren Yuan and Ji Qianqing. It was another young man. Mysterious radiance flowed around his body. He was like the son of a god standing in the void. The mysterious and ancient aura filled the air. People could not help but want to bow down and worship him. It was impossible to see his real body clearly. He was shrouded in radiance and looked very mysterious. However, he was incomparably powerful. He was not inferior to Ren Yuan and Ji Qianqing. The aura emanating from this figure was vast, as if a peerless beast had arrived, causing people to tremble just by looking at it. Especially those eyes, they were like two rotating stars. It was very frightening. Yao Tianwu, the young sovereign of the Yao family. Someone exclaimed. It was another powerful young sovereign. Yao Tianwu, are you trying to prove something by making such a big commotion? Fancy things are useless. The golden-robed young man who appeared first spoke. He glanced at the hazy young man who was emitting a vast aura. Let's fight if you're not convinced. The radiance around the hazy young man faded, revealing a masculine face. His voice was calm, revealing an invincible confidence and calmness. Not now, but I'll make you lose. As soon as the golden-robed young man's voice fell, his figure directly swept into the depths of Sacred City. I'll be waiting. Yao Tianwu spoke. His skin shone and his long hair draped over his shoulders. A vague pressure filled the air and then disappeared. Ji Qianqing did not speak. His figure streaked across the void and left. Du Xiaofu's eyes were looking at the void at the side. There was a fluctuation there. Two figures came together and instantly reached the void above. It was a man and a woman. The woman's figure was graceful and her long dress fluttered in the wind. It was as if she was untainted by the world of mortals and was extremely moving. Her graceful and exquisite body faintly emitted a vast and invisible pressure that caused one's heart to palpitate. The man was handsome and had a unique charm. Compared to Ren Yuan, Yao Tianwu, and the others who had just left, he was even better. Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered. The man and woman were also Nirvana sovereigns. They were very powerful and had also reached the indestructible realm. Especially the young man, his aura was even stronger. Immortal and indestructible, a Nirvana paragon. Such a cultivation level and talent did not truly shock Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu could only sigh in his heart. The overall prowess of the human race in this savage ground was much stronger than the 3 continents and 9 continents outside. Hopefully, after the opening of the eternal tomb, the energy of the heaven and earth would intensify. In the future, the prowess of the human race in the 3 continents and 9 continents would also increase gradually. The appearance of such a man and woman made people not dare to look at them directly. The man and woman only stayed for a short moment before they left. They were like a pair of golden boy and jade girl. Jiang Yiting of the Jiang family, the number 1 hero of the first family, and 2 young supreme sovereigns. Looking at the extraordinary young man and woman flying across the sky, many people on the streets exclaimed. Some were envious, while others were yearning. However, many of the young people were shocked. They had just entered the Saint City and they had already seen so many young supreme sovereigns. Although some of them were of similar age, the difference was too great. Many of the young people were filled with confidence before they came. However, after seeing those young supreme sovereigns, they were extremely disappointed. Lin Pu, Lin Yao, and the others were also dispirited. Even though they were younger, they knew deeply that those young supreme sovereigns were not people they could compare to. The young people of the Lu family were similar in age to them, but they were much stronger than them. They're not weak. They can be compared to the top 10 young people of the Beast Alliance. Du Xiaofu compared these people to Qing Long, Xiao Gu, Xiao Yao and the others of the Beast Alliance. You guys don't have to be sad. These young supreme sovereigns have been cultivating in the Saint Palace for a long time. As long as you guys can enter the Saint Palace, your cultivation will soar as well. You guys can follow in their footsteps and become strong. An old man consoled the young people beside him. Chapter 23-22. Ji Qianxing, the number 1 hero, Ren Yuan, Jiang Yiting, and the other young supreme beings are not here for the examination. Their names are already at the top of the list. Their radiance is dazzling and shining in all directions. They are here for the position of the human emperor. Only supreme beings are qualified to obtain the position of the human emperor. We are very lucky this time to witness the birth of a new human emperor. Discussions continued in all directions as they sighed in shock. What's so great about that? If my sister was not seriously injured, how could these guys be her opponents? Lu Mingmo muttered. He was very unhappy. If his sister was not injured, everything would be different. None of these people could be compared to her. Du Xiaofu did not care. He was not interested in the position of the human emperor. As long as he could enter the sacred palace to comprehend, he hoped to find an opportunity to advance further and step into the middle stage of the sage realm. After the number 1 hero, Jiang Yiting, and the others left, Lu Mingmo continued to lead the crowd. Only supreme beings like the number 1 hero could fly in the void. They could not do so as they did not have that qualification. On the streets, there was a sea of people. Experts were as common as clouds and geniuses were gathered. Du Xiaofu saw many extraordinary young people. There were even teenagers who were already at the peak of the martial venerable realm. On the streets, Du Xiaofu did not dare to release the power of his primordial spirit. However, he could feel many supreme beings and sighed inwardly. After passing through more than half of the ancient city, a huge mountain appeared in front of them. It was surrounded by a vast plaza. Although it was called a huge mountain, it was suspended in the void. The peak of the mountain seemed to reach into the sky. It was incomparably mystical. It was 10,000 feet tall and emitted a dazzling light. It was located in the center of the plaza. The mountain had 8 directions. 8 bluestone steps connected to the peak. It was magnificent and majestic. When Du Xiaofu arrived at the plaza, his soul trembled. The plaza was supported by a huge talisman array. The mountain was filled with an ancient aura. The square was already filled with a sea of people, densely packed. There were many extraordinary auras. Experts were as common as clouds and geniuses were gathered. This was an absolutely grand occasion. Brother Rock Emperor, we are here. That is the examination stone. Lu Mingma raised his hand and pointed at the floating mountain in front of the crowd. He said to Du Xiaofu, "This is the testing stone. How do you test it?" Du Xiaofu was very surprised. He began to carefully size up the examination stone. At this moment, many figures were soaring into the sky and climbing up the bluestone steps that led to the peak of the mountain. But strangely, some people directly vomited blood and fell to the ground before they could even step onto the bluestone steps. There were also figures covered in light, activating their martial veins. They found it difficult to advance even an inch in the middle of the bluestone steps, and figures kept falling down. This was left behind by the almighty ancestors of the human race. As long as you can reach the peak of the mountain and carve your name in blood on the heaven ranking, then communicate with the heaven ranking. As long as you can leave your name on the heaven ranking, you can become a supreme genius. Those who emit golden light are supreme geniuses, and those who emit purple light are supreme geniuses. Lu Mingma explained to Du Xiaofu. He pointed at the distant peak of the mountain. There was a dazzling radiance there, as if divine splendor was pervading the air and illuminating the blue dome of heaven. He revealed a bit of complacency and said, "Look over there, that is the heaven ranking. 999th, the second from the bottom." Damn, how did my name drop to the bottom? While speaking, Lu Mingma's gaze was very helpless. He was obviously 999th, but now he had dropped by one place and was the first from the bottom. However, Lu Mingma did not care too much about his ranking. He continued to speak to Du Xiaofu. "At the top, the most dazzling radiance is my sister's name. She is number 1 on the heaven ranking." Du Xiaofu raised his eyes. The heaven ranking was a huge stone tablet, standing tall on the peak of the mountain. Or rather, this stone tablet was the peak of the mountain. The surrounding ancient talisman patterns were emitting radiance. On top of it, there were 1,000 names flickering with splendor. The last name was Lu Mingma, emitting a golden radiance. And at the highest position, there was a row of purple radiance like divine splendor, illuminating half of the blue dome of heaven. There were the 3 words Lu Mingma, shining with purple radiance, like a purple sun in the sky. It made people feel as if there was a pressure descending upon them. Look, those are all supreme geniuses. As long as you can leave your name on it, you can stay in the sacred palace to cultivate. Lu Mingma, Yu Li, the number 1 hero, Sun Qin, Jiang Yiting, Ji Qianxing, Feng Wuxia, their names are the most intense and dazzling. They are all supreme geniuses. The plaza was abuzz with discussions. Everyone was excited and yearning. Du Xiaofu also saw Yu Ming's name on the stone tablet. It was only second to Lu Limo, followed by the number 1 hero, Sun Qin, Jiang Yiting, Ji Qianxing, and so on. There were a total of 50 to 60 names, and all of them were emitting a purple divine light. They were sparkling and represented supreme talents, surpassing those of heaven's chosen. Sigh, so many people have failed. It is harder to pass the test and leave your name on the heaven ranking than I imagined. They are all supreme geniuses, but if they can't cover the last place on the heaven ranking and leave their name on the heaven ranking, they won't be able to enter the sacred palace to cultivate. On the giant mountain, on the 8 bluestone steps, young men and women were constantly vomiting blood and falling down. The elders and seniors behind them were sighing with regret. It is not easy to leave your name on the heaven ranking. If your talent is not enough, you will not even be able to get close to the heaven ranking. Lu Mingma raised his head. He was already very happy to be last on the heaven ranking. With so many young people taking the test, it was easier said than done to squeeze out others to leave their name on the heaven ranking. Can everyone take the test? Lin Yao asked Lu Mingma. She was a little shy and did not dare to look directly at Lu Mingma. Of course, the test is free. As long as you can enter the heaven ranking and leave your name on the heaven ranking, you will be able to communicate with the heaven ranking. If you can leave your name on the heaven ranking, you will have succeeded and can stay in the sacred palace to cultivate. Lu Mingma said to Lin Yao. Is the test related to one's cultivation level? Lin Yao was a little bolder. She was curious and wanted to know more. This is purely a test of talent and potential. It has nothing to do with one's cultivation level. However, this test stone can only be used by the younger generation. The older generation cannot leave their names. Lu Mingma was very patient. He did not have any arrogance and appeared to be very approachable. Du Xiaofu heard this and was also very interested. He wondered how his talent was. However, Du Xiaofu was very confident that he could enter the heaven ranking. He did not know what the test stone was for. What was the difference between the spiritual roots of Hisanlu Kyushu and the haze? In the Sanlu Kyushu, talent was usually tested based on spiritual roots and martial veins. They were divided into outstanding human, human king, human emperor, and human sovereign. Above human sovereign, there was the sovereign talent. They were known as the sovereign of men. However, the talent ranking outside was only tested based on spiritual roots and martial veins. Du Xiaofu sized up the test stone in front of him. It seemed that it was not only testing spiritual roots and martial veins, but also testing potential. It was much more mysterious and complicated. The vast square was in an uproar. A few young people were eager to try. They all wanted to pass the test to see if they had the talent of a sovereign. However, it was very difficult. There were many people who entered the sacred city to take the test, but those who succeeded were very rare. Brother, you have been pushed down from the heaven ranking. Suddenly, Lu Yunma spoke. Her eyes were shining. Her name was ranked 58th. She was emitting a dazzling purple light. She was the sovereign talent. Who is this guy? Lu Mingma felt very helpless. He could only watch helplessly as his last place on the heaven leaderboard disappeared and was replaced by his second place from the bottom. On the heaven ranking, in the 736th place, there was a name called Qi Qiong. It was especially bright and dazzling. Qi Qiong passed the test and her talent ranking directly stood at the 736th place. Originally, the 736th ranking was pushed back by one place. All the other rankings were also pushed back. Because of this, Lu Jingma's last place directly fell down. This made Lu Mingma very helpless. He was originally on the heaven ranking, but now he had fallen down. Tomorrow is the last day. I will re-enter the heaven ranking. Immediately, Lu Mingma was very confident that he would re-enter the heaven ranking. The examination stone can be used for the test at any time. Du Xiaofu asked Lu Mingma curiously. That's not it. Recently, the entire younger generation of the human race came to the sacred city to take the test. The examination stone can be used for the next few days. Normally, the examination stone will be here, but it will only be opened once every 3 months. The sovereign talents who are cultivating in the sacred palace can be re-examined to see if their ranking has improved. However, the ranking of the sovereign talents at the front will not change. Their ranking is unshakable. Lu Mingma said. Come on, you must pass the test. Just a little bit more and we will be able to get the examination stone. The square was very lively. Many young people were constantly going to take the test. Shouts gathered and some were regretful. Many young people came to the sacred city for the first time. They were in high spirits and eager to try. They all wanted to leave their names on the heaven ranking. They wanted to bloom in the sacred city and become one of the sovereign talents. My name will definitely be on the heaven ranking. Among the crowd, a well-built young man directly soared into the sky. Mysterious talisman patterns gushed out from the soles of his feet. He directly landed on a bluestone staircase. His body was shining brilliantly like a burning flame. This young man was not simple. He easily climbed to the top of the mountain and arrived in front of the stone tablet. Using his index finger as a pen, he wrote his name in blood. Then, He communicated with the examination stone. Boom! The void trembled. The heaven ranking's radiance overflowed into the sky. Just below Lu Yunma, at the 59th position, there was a purple brilliance blossoming like the sun. A name glittered and flickered. The whole square changed color. Purple radiance. This was a sovereign talent. That young man did it. He left his name on the heaven ranking in one go and shook the whole square. He has a sovereign talent and is very powerful. I wonder where he comes from. He is Lujiang City's Xiahou Changpan. His name has already shaken Lujiang City. Discussions were everywhere. The whole square was shaken. Many girls were looking at that young sovereign talent with shining eyes. Young man, can you go to the first family as a guest? This little brother is very talented. My Yao family is not far from here. Can you go and have a seat? My Yao family is willing to provide you with the cultivation resources you need. When that young man walked down from the examination stone, many people immediately surrounded him. Their faces were full of sincerity, hoping to rope him in. That Xiahou Changpan has a sovereign talent. He is destined to have a boundless future. He will be roped in by many big families. These big families hope to rope in young sovereigns to strengthen their own power. Lu Yunma said in a low voice, as if she was talking to Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu did not find it strange. A sovereign talent had a boundless future. Naturally, they would be invited and roped in by all kinds of forces. When these young sovereigns grew up one day, they would be a great help to these big families. Boom! Boom! The examination stone trembled continuously. The heaven ranking lit up. 2 rays of golden light dazzled. Another 2 names appeared on the heaven ranking. 2 geniuses passed the examination and left their names on the heaven ranking. There were people succeeding one after another, which stimulated all the young people present to go up the examination stone one after another. However, soon after, many people vomited blood and fell down. Their faces were pale as they smashed into the square. They were disappointed. Most of them did not even have the qualifications to set foot on the top of the mountain. You guys go. See if you can leave your names. Du Xiaofu said to Lin Pu, Lin Yao, and Lin Zhu. He agreed to the old village chief's request to bring these 3 people for the examination. He hoped that they could enter the sacred palace. Hearing this, Lin Pu, Lin Yao, and Lin Zhu were excited, nervous. On the way here, they had a lot of expectations. However, after arriving at the sacred city, they saw too many sovereigns. Compared to them, they were very dim. Examination, give it your all. Lin Yao stepped forward. Her eyes were filled with light. She led Lin Pu and Lin Zhu across the square and towards the examination stone. The 3 of them landed on the bluestone steps. The young people of the Lu family were all waiting for the results. The old man of the Lin family was extremely nervous. He held his breath and waited. Unfortunately, Lin Yao and the other 2 young people walked up the bluestone steps. After a few steps, Lin Zhu vomited blood and fell down. Lin Pu also fell down halfway up the mountain. Lin Yao's body was covered in light. She activated her martial veins. However, she could only reach the stone tablet. Then, she could no longer support herself and fell down. The disciples of the Lu family were not surprised by the failure of Lin Yao and the other 2. Every young man who came to take the test was a genius chosen by the various forces, and they were all outstanding talents. However, how many of them could pass the examination? We failed. The old man of the Lin family was shocked. His eyes were dull and tears flowed out. The Lin family had sacrificed too much for hundreds of years to be able to come for the examination. However, today, the juniors of the Lin family finally reached the examination stone. However, they failed and did not pass the examination. This was not only the failure of the three young people, but also the failure of the entire Lin family village. However, the Lin family village did not have the time to wait for the next opportunity. "I'm sorry. We failed." Then, Lin Yao, Lin Pu, and Lin Zhu returned. Their faces were pale and their eyes were dim. The three of them knew how much the Lin family village had sacrificed to be able to reach the examination stone. Today's update. Chapter 23-23. They carried the hopes and hopes of the entire village, and everyone in the village was still waiting for the results. But now, they had failed. This test was far more difficult than they had imagined. "It's all right, there are still other opportunities to become strong." The old man from the Lin family village squeezed out a smile, comforting Lin Yao and the other two. Then, he looked at Du Xiaofu, and asked with his last hope, "Sir, has Lin Feng arrived? When will the test end?" Du Xiaofu did not answer the old man first, but asked Lu Mingma instead. "It ends tomorrow night," Lu Mingma said. "Don't worry, Lin Feng will make it," Du Xiaofu replied to the old man from the Lin family village. On the testing stone, there were still many young people going up for the test. "Why is it so difficult? Is there a problem with the testing stone?" A young man who had failed fell, his face pale, and asked. He was very confident, but he had failed. This made him unable to accept this result. This testing stone was left behind by an almighty human ancestor. For countless years, there has been no problem. As long as your talent is enough, you will be able to leave your name. An old man reprimanded. The testing stone would not have any low-level problems. It was left behind by an almighty human ancestor. "Brother Rock Emperor, didn't you want to be tested?" Lu Mingma asked Du Xiaofu. Lu Hongyu and Lu Yunma also looked at Du Xiaofu. They knew this guy was strong, but sometimes, strength and talent were not purely related. The testing stone's talent came from martial veins, spirit roots, potential, and even bloodline and bone structure. It did not have much to do with one's cultivation level and strength. It was purely testing one's talent, and potential. Suddenly, a beast roared like thunder from far away in the square. From above the void, there were demonic beast mounts crossing the void, shaking the void. The densely packed figures in the square all changed their expressions, and their gazes suddenly gathered. In an instant, ferocious beasts roared like thunder. A large number of ferocious demonic beast mounts arrived, and appeared in the void outside the square, exuding a terrifying aura. The mounts of these demonic beasts were all different. There were vicious birds that spread their wings, and their bodies were like dark clouds that pressed down from the sky. There were vicious beasts that were malevolent, and they towered like small mountains. On the mounts of these demonic beasts, there were many figures in black armor, emitting a sharp and terrifying aura. Instantly, the bustling square became silent. Those who were not strong enough directly trembled. The ferocious bird in the lead spread its wings, and numerous figures were suffused with light. They were like numerous stars that had descended, and the halos around them were like brilliant suns that were dazzling to the point of being unable to look directly at them. It caused the space to sparkle with light, and it was as if gods had descended. "It's the Black Cavalry. Yu Tianzi of the Yu family, Yu Jigong." At this moment, the expressions of the experts from the various clans and powers changed as they watched from the sidelines, their eyes filled with doubt. Boom! Hundreds of top-notch experts from the Black Cavalry Corps had arrived. In addition to the godlike experts in the lead, such a terrifying aura shook the heavens and shocked everyone present. Even the younger generation that was testing the stones on the bluestone steps had temporarily stopped moving forward. They were all stunned. "They're from the Yu clan." Lu Mingma's expression also darkened, and he frowned slightly. He recognized that they were from the Yu clan. That aura had filled the air, and the Yu clan had definitely sent top-notch experts. Who dares to kill the Black Cavalry Corps? Who dares to kill the Yu clan? Stand out! Stand out! Amongst the numerous figures that were dazzling like the sun, a loud shout like this resounded through the entire square like a thunderclap. It rumbled and reverberated like a sudden clap of thunder, causing everyone's eardrums to tremble, and the voice contained boundless majesty. What's going on? Who dares to kill the Black Cavalry Corps and the Yu clan? Such a shout reverberated, and people immediately began to discuss. This was the holy city. Who would have the guts to kill the Black Cavalry Corps and the Yu clan? Yu Tianzi and Yu Jigong have come in person. I'm afraid the ones who died are not ordinary people from the Yu clan. Among the various powers, some people secretly pondered, waiting to see what would happen. Lin Yao, Lin Pu, Lin Zhu, and the others from the Lin family village had extremely solemn expressions. Although they knew that the Rock Emperor was extremely powerful and unfathomable, the Yu clan had sent more and more experts, and they were getting stronger and stronger. Du Xiaofu raised his eyes slightly and looked at the hundreds of experts from the Black Cavalry Corps in the air. When his gaze landed on the several figures on the ferocious bird, a trace of coldness silently surged out of his eyes. Du Xiaofu would never forget one of them. He was dressed in bright clothes and had an extraordinary bearing. It was the person who had slapped him off the cliff in the Yu clan. He was at the Master Realm, but his aura was clearly stronger than the vice-domain chief of the Yu clan's Black Cavalry Corps whom he had just killed. Half-saint. Beside that old man, there was another old man. He had long white eyebrows, but his complexion was ruddy. He wore a grey robe with patterns on it, and the aura he leaked couldn't escape Du Xiaofu's probing. He was a half-saint, and he was already one step away from the saint realm. It was only a half-saint, so Du Xiaofu didn't pay much attention to him. The Yu clan wouldn't give up. This was within his expectations. In Du Xiaofu's imagination, the Yu clan seemed to have arrived a little late. The entire place was silent. Many of the figures in the square were trembling. They didn't dare to speak, and they didn't even dare to breathe loudly. What's wrong? You don't dare to stand out. You can't hide. Get out here. Seeing that there was no movement in the square, the thunderous shout spread out once again with a huge pressure. The person who spoke was the old man from the Yu clan. It's a little troublesome. It's Yu Tianzi from the Yu clan. It's rumored that he's about to reach the Saint Realm. There's also Yu Jigong from the Yu clan, Yu Ming's fourth uncle. He's a Master Realm expert. Lu Mingma transmitted her voice to Du Xiaofu. The expressions of Lu Yunma, Lu Hongyu, and the other Lu clan disciples changed. It's none of your business. Du Xiaofu's eyes moved slightly as he spoke to Lin Pu and the others. Then, he smiled at Lu Mingma and said, I'll have to trouble you to take care of them for me. As soon as he finished speaking, light flashed under Du Xiaofu's feet, and his figure soared into the sky. At the same time, Du Xiaofu's voice was also faintly heard, but it clearly echoed in the vast square. It seems that there are quite a lot of people from the Yu clan. Are they here to die again? Du Xiaofu knew very well that the Yu clan's people were here to find him. There weren't many of them, and he didn't plan to hide. Everything was within his expectations. Whoosh whoosh, countless gazes followed the voice in an instant and immediately fell on Du Xiaofu's body. Along with many obscure auras, they immediately enveloped Du Xiaofu's body as if they wanted to pry into something. Hundreds of Black Cavalry Regiment's experts and demonic beast mounts also fixed their gazes on Du Xiaofu's body. Their auras surged, and the void rumbled. At this moment, when Du Xiaofu's figure appeared, Yu Jigong's face was gloomy. His cold gaze fell on Du Xiaofu's body as if he was extremely angry. He revealed an extremely cold smile and said, Good, good, so you dared to kill my Yu clan's people. Boy, no matter who you are, you will definitely regret it. So what if you're from the Yu clan? I've killed many of your people, but I don't have any regrets. Du Xiaofu said, looking at Yu Jigong with a faint chill in his eyes. Who is this young man? He dared to kill the Yu clan and the Black Cavalry Regiment's people. What's going on? Where did this young man come from? He seems to be quite arrogant. He actually doesn't put the Yu clan in his eyes. He's too arrogant. Some people whispered. They were very puzzled, but also very curious. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, Yu Jigong's gloomy face gradually turned ashen. He looked at Du Xiaofu with a sinister gaze and said, "Boy, my Yu clan will make you beg for death. You're dead." The Yu clan is really angry. Yu Jigong's Hindustani words caused an uproar in the square. The consequences of the Yu clan's anger were definitely not trivial. Facing Yu Jigong, Du Xiaofu's expression didn't change. His expression was normal as he said indifferently, "Don't use the Yu clan to threaten me. If you piss me off, I'll kill 1 on sight, 2 on sight." Good, good, I hope your strength is as arrogant as your words. Yu Tianzi's voice was low, but it made people tremble, like the beating of a heavenly drum. His white eyebrows twitched, and his old face looked somewhat ferocious. He had lived for so long, but this was the first time he had seen someone who didn't put the Yu clan in his eyes. The square trembled. Many people didn't know what was going on. They secretly looked at each other in dismay. Listening to the conversation, it seemed that the young man had killed many people from the Yu clan. Now, the Yu clan had dispatched experts to deal with him. What does the Yu clan want to do? This is the holy city. Lu Mingma's figure flew out. Under the nervous and helpless gazes of Lu Yunma and Lu Hongyu, he directly went to Du Xiaofu's side. He looked at Yu Jigong and Yu Tianzi and said, "I saw it with my own eyes. The Yu clan led the Black Cavalry Corps to kill this brother of the Rock Emperor. In the end, they were killed by the Rock Emperor. Even if the Rock Emperor needs to be punished, it should be the Holy Temple who makes the decision, not the Yu clan." Lu Mingma's words immediately made Yu Jigong and Yu Tianzi's expressions change. When they saw Lu Mingma, the densely packed crowd in the square, including many people from the surrounding major forces, were secretly in an uproar. Is it the Lu family's Lu Mingma? That guy only knows how to stir up trouble in the holy city. He shares the same mother as Lu Limo and Lu Yunmo. However, his talent is vastly different from Lu Limo's. Even if he is compared to Lu Yunmo, he is still far from being comparable to Lu Yunmo. Lu Mingma seems to only know how to idle around. If it wasn't for Lu Limo's face, I'm afraid many people would be unhappy with him. Lu Mingma really only knows how to stir up trouble. He's causing trouble for the Lu clan. If it wasn't for his sister Lu Limo, I'm afraid the Lu clan would be in big trouble. Lower your voice. I heard that the young sovereign of the Yu clan, Yu Ming, is going to marry Lu Limo. They are a match made in heaven. In the future, the Yu clan and the Lu clan will be one family. Chapter 23-24. Lu Mingma's appearance made Yu Jigong and Yu Tianzi's expressions change subtly. They had already received news that Lu Mingma of the Lu family seemed to be together with that young man. Yu Jigong looked at Lu Mingma, his eyelids twitching. "Nephew, the Yu family and the Lu family are going to be one family soon. Don't be used by outsiders. Who's going to be one family with you? Brother Peng is my brother. Even if my brother killed the Black Knight Corps, he would be handed over to the Divine Temple to be judged. Your Yu family can't do that," Lu Mingma said. Although the vast aura was suppressed and made him tremble, he still gritted his teeth and puffed out his chest. Du Xiaofu looked at Lu Mingma beside him and was a little surprised. This guy's talent was not as good as Lu Limo's, but he was loyal. He was much easier to get along with than Lu Limo. This kid Lu Mingma's cultivation is not good, but he has some guts. Lu Limo's words immediately attracted many praises from the crowd. Some people even applauded. This kind of guts was definitely not something an ordinary person could have. There were not many people in the divine temple who dared to challenge the Yu family for an outsider. Hearing Lu Mingma's words, Yu Jigong's expression became extremely ugly. Although he did not think much of Lu Mingma, he had to take him into consideration. The Lu family and the Yu family were going to be married soon. If the Lu family and the Yu family were to fight at this time, it was definitely not something he wanted to see. At that time, there would be side issues arising from the marriage. He could not bear the responsibility. The marriage between Lu Limo and Yu Ming was the most important matter for the Yu family. The relationship behind it was too big. However, many of the Yu family's experts were killed. It was equivalent to slapping the Yu family's face. Moreover, the matter of the Lin family village was ordered to be resolved by the higher-ups. It was impossible for Yu Jigong to just let it go. Provoking the Yu family, killing experts of the Yu family, and the remnants of the Lin family village could not be let go of. The younger generation of the Lu clan does have some temper. It's just that their strength is a bit lacking. While Yu Jigong's expression was gloomy, Yu Tianze opened his mouth and looked at Lu Jimo. His eyes were dazzling and contained a vast amount of pressure. That invisible qi was like 100,000 mountains collapsing. He then said, "Step down. Today's matter isn't something you can mess around with. Otherwise, I can only ask the elders of the Lu clan to properly teach you a lesson." The formless aura was too vast. Lu Mingmo's body seemed to be under heavy pressure in an instant. He trembled, his face turned pale, and his forehead broke out in cold sweat. "Brother Ming Mo, this matter has nothing to do with you. I will settle it myself." Du Xiaofu spoke. His figure took a step forward, and from within his body, an invisible aura spread out. Lu Mingma immediately returned to normal, and the invisible crushing force disappeared without a trace. "This matter has nothing to do with the Lu clan. Why do you have to bully the young? With your age and cultivation, you secretly attack the young people of the Lu clan. The Yu clan is really shameless." After that, Du Xiaofu raised his head and looked at Yu Tianze. His tone was neither salty nor light. At this moment, Yu Tianze was secretly moved. He could feel that this kid was not ordinary. He was definitely not simple. Was he really from the Lin clan that was about to be completely destroyed? "Kid, you are very arrogant." Yu Tianze sneered and stared at Du Xiaofu. He then said, "Since I started cultivating, there has never been anyone who dared to be so arrogant towards the Yu clan. You are the first. That's because you are too arrogant. The Yu clan is nothing." Du Xiaofu sneered and stood with his hands behind his back. His shirt was a little damaged from the last battle. His long hair was slightly swaying in the wind, and his eyes were sharp. "Good, good. You are really arrogant and don't know what is good for you." Yu Tianze sneered and stared at Du Xiaofu. His old face was completely cold. He said, "I will give you two choices. First, you will be captured without a fight. Second, I will kill you on the spot." Hearing Yu Tianze's words, Lu Mingma had no intention of letting him go. Yu Tianze was an expert of the sage-to-be level. Lu Mingma's face was dignified. Even if the strongest ancestor of the Lu clan came out, he would at most be on par with Yu Tianze. Moreover, Lu Mingma clearly knew that Yu Tianze was nothing in the entire Yu clan. The Yu clan was too strong. As he gazed at the cold and gloomy expression on Yu Tianze's old face, Du Xiaofu merely smiled faintly. He gently shook his head and said, "Surrender without putting up a fight. These words do not seem to exist in my life." Yu Tianze's eyes flashed with killing intent. He sneered and said, "Then you can only choose the second choice." Du Xiaofu shook his head at Yu Tianze. A trace of arrogance flashed across his resolute face. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile and said, "To be honest, with your strength of the sage-to-be level, you are not qualified to kill me. I will choose the third choice." "You don't have a third choice." No matter what you choose, I am afraid that no one will be able to save you today. Yu Tianzi's face was extremely cold. The corners of his eyes were twitching. He was a sage-to-be expert and he was one step away from the Saint Martial realm. However, he was being looked down upon by a junior. How could he not be angry? He turned his monstrous anger into killing intent and suppressed it in the depths of his heart. In his heart, Yu Tianzi was sure that this arrogant kid would die in a moment. I choose to test my talent. This is the reason why I have come here. Du Xiaofu smiled. His figure flashed like lightning and directly swept towards the mountain-like testing stone. Everyone was stunned. They had thought that a big battle was inevitable. That young man had dared to kill the experts of the Yu clan and didn't put Yu Tianzi, Yu Jigang, and the other experts in his eyes. They were afraid that a big battle would occur. No one had thought that the young man would suddenly choose to test his talent. This unforeseen event had come a little too quickly. This was like two armies fighting. The war drums were beating together and the arrow was already knocked on the bow. However, one side had suddenly stopped the drums and turned around to leave. It was really hard for people to come back to their senses. Everyone was stunned. Lu Mingma and the people of the Yu clan were also stunned. They were somewhat absent-minded and didn't know how to respond. Yu Tianzi and Yu Jigang were also stunned. While they were stunned, Du Xiaofu's figure had already arrived on the bluestone steps. Humph, then let's see how good your talent is. Yu Tianzi snorted. Although he was a little surprised that the young man hadn't come to the holy city to test his talent, he was also a little curious at this moment. He could feel that the young man called Emperor Rock was not simple, so he also wanted to know how good his talent was. In any case, it wouldn't take too much time. Boom! As soon as Du Xiaofu landed on the bluestone steps, he immediately felt a huge crushing force enveloping him. This crushing force was different for people of different cultivation levels. The stronger the person, the stronger the crushing force. It was unavoidable. Soon, Du Xiaofu understood that this was a comprehensive test. It was a test from the foot of the mountain to the top. If one's talent wasn't good enough, they wouldn't be able to reach the top. However, this crushing force had no effect on Du Xiaofu. Back in the sealed ancient land of the central continent, the purple lightning profound cauldron's test could also directly reach the top. Soon, under the gaze of everyone present, Du Xiaofu directly leaped to the top of the mountain and arrived at the dazzling stone tablet. On the stone tablet, there was a blank space in a corner. The space that was inscribed with blood could communicate with the testing stone to test one's talent. If one's talent wasn't good enough, everything would disappear. On the other hand, one's name would be left on the heaven roll and illuminate the holy city. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's expression turned serious. He also wanted to know how good his talent was. This wasn't a simple test of spiritual roots and martial veins, but a comprehensive test. Soon, Du Xiaofu used his index finger as a pen and a faint golden light spread out. However, Du Xiaofu intentionally concealed the aura of the golden-winged rock clan. Otherwise, the appearance of this supreme blood would be enough to shake the holy city and cause a phenomenon. Emperor Rock. Du Xiaofu engraved this name. The golden blood's aura was concealed, but it still spread out a golden light. He's actually called Emperor Rock. How arrogant! Someone exclaimed. The name Emperor Rock itself was domineering and made people exclaim in admiration. How could an ordinary person dare to use such a name? Du Xiaofu engraved his name and stretched out his hands. His 5 fingers spread out and landed on the ancient stone tablet. Instantly, Du Xiaofu felt mysterious talisman runes gushing out from the stone tablet. They flowed into his body through his hands and flowed into his meridians, acupoints, bones, and blood vessels. These talisman runes were very mysterious. They carried an invisible force that could allow one to enter a state of emptiness. Everyone held their breaths and waited. All eyes fell on Du Xiaofu, waiting for the result. What kind of talent did this arrogant and mysterious young man have that he dared to challenge a half-saint expert of the Yu clan? This would be the first test. Boom! Amidst the silence, a trembling sound suddenly resounded through the void like a sudden clap of thunder. It shook the entire vast holy city and shook the firmament. Under everyone's watchful eyes, rays of light rose from the heaven ranking like 10 blazing suns. The aura was like the eruption of 100,000 volcanoes, vast and mighty in the ancient firmament. An unprecedentedly vast aura spread out from the stone tablet and rushed into the depths of the firmament. Everyone's eyes trembled. Countless creatures inexplicably shivered, and their souls couldn't help but tremble. On the heaven ranking, a dazzling purple-gold light rushed out with an unparalleled momentum. It directly rose on the heaven ranking like a hot knife through butter, crushing all the rankings below it. Rumble. At this moment, the void rumbled as if the sound of heaven was resounding. Above the void, a dazzling light shone on the heaven ranking, and a vision appeared in the sky. The entire holy city was shaking. The sound of heaven was endless, and a mysterious and vast aura spread out in the air. Everyone trembled, and their souls trembled. They wanted to worship it. At this moment, in this ancient holy city, a powerful and obscure aura was cast over. Chapter 23-25. Why is there such a phenomenon? What's happening? Someone couldn't help but exclaim. It was too shocking to see such a phenomenon. Rock Emperor. The purple gold light was as dazzling as lightning, but there were still experts who recognized it. It was the Rock Emperor's name. In an instant, it had crushed the heaven leaderboard and reached the first place, suppressing the unshakable Lu Limo's name. The purple gold light was too dazzling, and the entire testing platform was shaking violently. There were still many young men and women on the green stone steps, but now, they fell one by one. They felt an aura that they couldn't coexist with. It was as if there was a supreme being here, and they weren't fit to be in the same group. In the Lu family's secret chamber, Lu Limo, who was sitting cross-legged, was surrounded by a dazzling light. Suddenly, her eyes opened, and there was a flickering light in her eyes. It's from the heaven leaderboard. Lu Limo felt it. The name on the heaven leaderboard was carved with her blood. At this moment, she felt a majestic aura, like a supreme being that couldn't be provoked. It was extremely domineering, and it made her tremble. At the same time, in many corners of the holy city, many young supreme beings appeared in the void. Their eyes were dazzling as they looked in the direction of the heaven leaderboard, where the purple gold light was dazzling. A supreme being has shaken the heaven leaderboard. These young supreme beings were moved, and their expressions darkened. Among them were Jiang Yiting, the number one hero, Jiang Yiting, Sun Qin, Ren Yun, and the others. In the square, the purple gold light was resplendent, and the whole place was trembling. In the end, the Rock Emperor's name jumped up and down, and finally stabilized below Sun Qin, stopping at the 5th place. However, the Rock Emperor's name wasn't golden or purple, but a dazzling purple gold light like lightning. The purple gold light was dazzling, and it was even more dazzling than Lu Limo's name. Oh my God, 5th place on the heaven leaderboard, this is a terrifying supreme being. Oh my God, this guy is indeed extraordinary. He's a supreme being. That's heaven-defying. The testing actually caused a phenomenon. After the whole place was shaken, some people came back to their senses and exclaimed. They were extremely shocked. There were still people who were stupefied. That scene was too shocking. Purple gold radiance overflowed into the heavens, and a mysterious and terrifying aura descended, triggering heaven and earth irregular scenes. At this moment, Emperor Rock's name was left on the heaven ranking. It was as if he had communicated with the entire examination stone and was resonating with it. The light illuminated the void, suppressing too many supreme prodigies. Rock Emperor, where exactly did this young man come from? He managed to reach 5th place in one go, suppressing the primes of many great powers. This is too shocking. This Rock Emperor has appeared out of nowhere and is very powerful. He is destined to shock the entire human race this time. The spectators from the various clans and powers were all watching from afar. Their gazes were extremely sharp. The 5th-ranked paragon was strong enough to suppress the younger paragons from the various major powers. Such a young man was destined to be extraordinary. Some experts even felt that the title was a type of purple-gold color. It was very special and resonated with the heaven ranking. It carried a type of terrifying might and aura, and it even caused strange phenomena in the world. No one had ever been able to do this before. Lu Mingma, Lu Yunma, Lu Hongyu, Lin Pu, and Lin Yao were speechless. Yu Tianzi, Yu Jigong, and the others were also stunned. Their eyes were lifeless, and it was difficult for them to come back to their senses. Finally, everything began to calm down, and the light began to dim. Du Xiaofu withdrew his hands and stood quietly in front of the heaven ranking. He is a paragon. He has the qualifications to be arrogant. Looking at that figure, the hearts of everyone inside and outside the plaza were beating wildly. They began to size him up seriously. He's too powerful. He shook the top 5 paragons on the heaven ranking. This Rock Emperor is destined to rise up and shine in the holy city. Someone spoke. He was very excited and excited. They had personally witnessed the appearance of a terrifying new paragon. The top 10 rankings that have never moved before have now been shaken. A new paragon has appeared out of nowhere. An old man said meaningfully. The appearance of such a young new paragon would probably cause great waves in the holy city. In the distance around the plaza, more and more figures were flying over in an endless stream. They were all attracted by this astonishing commotion. That's Lord Rock Emperor. He succeeded. He's a paragon. Lin Pu, Lin Yao, and the others were incomparably excited. The mysterious young man who had protected them all the way was a paragon, and a powerful one at that. Huh, so powerful. Lu Mingma laughed. He was very happy. With such a paragon appearing out of nowhere, he knew that the Rock Emperor was safe. Such a paragon had killed a few people from the Black Cavalry Regiment in self-defense. In the end, the matter would be left unsettled. The Holy Palace wouldn't look for trouble. Lu Yunma and Lu Hongyu were so shocked that they couldn't regain their senses. So this arrogant guy was actually so strong to such a terrifying degree. At this moment, Du Xiaofu, who was in front of the heaven ranking, was speechless. Du Xiaofu also didn't expect to cause such a huge commotion. He didn't know why, but in the state of emptiness, his martial vein, vain spirit, spiritual root, and the golden wing blood in his body seemed to be boiling at the same time. Then, the stone tablet trembled as if it was about to explode. His name also directly reached the top in an instant. However, Du Xiaofu didn't want to attract too much attention. He just wanted to enter the Holy Palace. If his performance was too shocking, it would also cause more trouble. Therefore, Du Xiaofu instantly suppressed it with all his strength. Originally, he just wanted to be in the top 10. Who knew that he would stabilize at the 5th place? Chi! Suddenly, a ghostly figure pounced on the examination stone. The aura that filled the sky rumbled in an instant. A hand seal was shot out. It was Yu Tianzi. Yu Tianzi came back to his senses. The young man who was related to the Lin clan was actually such an extraordinary paragon. At this moment, he already had the strength to kill an overlord realm cultivator. If he was allowed to grow, he would become a huge threat to the Yu clan. He definitely couldn't be left alive. He had to act immediately. Du Xiaofu had already sensed it. It was just one Yu Tianzi. He wouldn't be afraid even if there were 100 of him. Yu Tianzi, it's not good to bully the young. However, at that moment, a voice rang out. Almost at the same time, a figure surrounded by dazzling light appeared in front of Yu Tianzi like a bolt of lightning. The same hand seal, dazzling and resplendent, also collided with Yu Tianzi's hand seal. At that moment, Yu Tianzi's expression changed drastically. He already knew who was attacking. Chi. The two hand seals collided. There wasn't much of a sound of collision. Only two auras intertwined. Dazzling talisman patterns bloomed, and the void quietly cracked open. However, the two figures were forced back at the same time. It was as if they were evenly matched. Sun Bufan, what are you trying to do? Yu Tianzi's expression was gloomy as he was forced back. His voice was sharp and fierce. Does the Yu clan think that the holy city is their own? You want to openly kill a paragon? That's not very good. A figure appeared. It was an old man with black hair and a red face. He wore a long robe. Du Xiaofu had noticed this person. He had been hiding in the distance and had restrained his aura. However, he was still a sage-to-be. He was a member of the Sun clan. However, at that moment, Du Xiaofu's eyes darkened. He felt a vast fluctuation. A familiar aura that had been hiding nearby finally couldn't hold it in anymore. The Sun clan can't protect someone that the Yu clan wants to kill. At the same time, the void above the heaven roll was quietly distorted. As the sky trembled, a strange phenomenon appeared. The light was dazzling, and a terrifying scene of the sun and moon rotating appeared. Boom! A vast and terrifying aura descended, causing the entire holy city to tremble. In a flash, the void was filled with light. Whoosh, that terrifying scene descended. The stars exploded, the universe was turned upside down, and the void collapsed. It directly drowned Du Xiaofu. Even Sun Bufan turned pale with fright when he saw such a vast aura. At that moment, the others in the square collapsed to the ground. This kind of aura was too powerful. Just the terrifying aura that spread out was enough to make all living beings unable to resist it. They had to prostrate themselves in worship. Yu Bol. At that moment, a purple gold light surged out of Du Xiaofu's eyes. He had long known that Yu Bol was hiding nearby. Otherwise, he would have attacked Yu Jigong and the others directly just now. It was precisely because he knew of Yu Bol's existence that Du Xiaofu decided to test him first. When the test results came out, Du Xiaofu had already expected that the Yu clan would attack regardless of the cost, so he was on guard. Du Xiaofu wasn't worried about Yu Bol alone. This Yu Bol was at most weaker than Feng Jin. The Yu clan sure talks big. It's not very good to attack a young man like this. It was also at that moment that another voice was heard. Accompanied by a hole that seemed to have been torn open in the void, an old figure appeared like a ghost. In an instant, an invisible wave rippled in the void, bringing with it a strong wind that contained an ancient power. The light was dazzling as it spread out in the void, directly blocking Yu Bol's attack. It was as if it wanted to devour, destroy, and dissolve the strange phenomenon that Yu Bol had brought about. Not long after, the dazzling runes were destroyed in the void at the same time. Feng Wanran, does your Feng clan want to go against my Yu clan? The shout was sharp, and the void clanged. A dazzling energy spear pierced through the void, surrounded by divine flames and carrying with it a terrifying pressure, directly pierced towards Du Xiaofu. Wherever the energy spear passed, the void turned into a pitch-black vacuum. Yu Bol, this is the sacred city. Does your Yu clan want to cover the sky with one hand? This shout was tit for tat. A claw mark appeared in the void, bringing with it a strong gale. The runes were dazzling, blocking the energy spear and then devouring it. At the same time, two figures appeared in the sky, shining with dazzling light. They were two old men of similar age. One of them had shoulder-length black and white hair, and he wore a light-colored robe. He was thin, and his eyes were bright, emitting a frightening light. It was Yu Bol. The other old man wore a gray robe embroidered with some patterns. His white hair fluttered in the wind, and he had a pair of black eyebrows that were half the length of a finger. He was very eye-catching, but the terrifying aura on him at that moment was not below Yu Bol's. Feng Wanran, a cultivator from the Feng clan, huh? Du Xiaofu's gaze fell on the long-browed, grey-robed old man. His eyes were deep, as if they contained a storm, and there was a faint smile on his face. It's really lively here. Suddenly, above the void, another fluctuation appeared, and a middle-aged man appeared. His figure was slender and muscular, and his body was wrapped in a hazy halo, like the light of the stars. Only a pair of lightning-like eyes emitted light, which was very powerful. A supreme has appeared. I have nothing better to do, so I came to take a look. An old woman appeared in the sky far away. She was covered in dazzling runes. From afar, she looked like a rising sun. Boom! Far away in the void, a tall middle-aged man appeared quietly, shining brightly. Looking from afar, his figure was otherworldly. His black hair was loose, and his robe fluttered in the wind, making him look very valiant. Boom! Not far away, another beautiful woman appeared. Her long dress fluttered, and her eyes were like water, but they were extremely dazzling. When such figures appeared high in the void, formless pressure permeated the entire sacred city, freezing the void. They are too powerful. They are all saints. The people in the city were shocked, and some knelt down to salute them. Under such pressure, those who were weaker collapsed to the ground. Du Xiaofu stood below the heaven ranking. The purple-gold light in his eyes was also withdrawn, and they became clear again. Looking at the figures that appeared in the void one after another, all of them were saints. There were also many powerful ones who had hidden their auras. There were indeed many powerful ones in the sacred city. Feng Wanran, this brat killed people of the Yu clan and the Black Knight Regiment. You dare to stop me? Do you want to start a war with the Yu clan? Yu Bol looked at Feng Wanran. Such a supreme being was related to the Lin village and seemed to be targeting the Yu clan, which made Yu Bol wary. Once he grew up, he would be even more difficult to deal with in the future. He would be a big problem for the Yu clan, and the sooner he was dealt with, the better. No matter who he killed, this is the sacred city. It is not good for you to bully the young. If he is guilty, let the sacred temple judge him. Feng Wanran was nonchalant. He looked at Yu Bol and said, if the Yu clan wants to start a war with the Feng clan, then the Feng clan will accept it. But now, you want to kill this young man. I wonder if the other clans will agree to your Yu clan covering the sky with one hand. The sacred city has the sacred temple to judge. This young supreme being is related to the future of the human race. No one can decide alone. In the distance, the old woman spoke with a faint voice. Let the sacred temple judge. Several voices resounded in the void. Their voices were not loud, but it was enough to fall into the ears of countless creatures in the vast sacred city. Yu Bol's face was extremely gloomy. He looked at the figures in the void and knew that he had missed the best opportunity. These people would not let him have his way. Boom! Suddenly, the sky and earth trembled. From the depths of the sacred city, golden light filled the sky. Mysterious runes spread out, and a vast and unparalleled power spread out. It seemed to resonate with the sky of the sacred city, making people's souls tremble. Those who killed the Black Knight Regiment will be punished. They will be ordered not to leave the sacred city. After the event, the new emperor will judge them. Such a voice was like thunder, containing a great pressure. It resounded in the depths of the sacred city with an indescribable pressure. Ren Huang. When such a voice sounded, countless figures in the sacred city knelt down and worshipped in the depths of the sacred city. There was a vast pressure there that made everyone tremble. The imperial palace's dragon Qi. Du Xiaofu's eyes trembled. That was clearly the imperial palace's dragon Qi. It seemed that the Ren Huang inside was similar to the emperor outside. It was just that the Imperial Palace's dragon chi was too thick, far surpassing the Imperial Palace's dragon chi in the Barren Nation. As the voice sounded, the golden light faded, and everything began to calm down. Let's go. Feng Wanran smiled faintly, then nodded at Du Xiaofu and the others kindly. His figure then broke through the sky and disappeared into the void. Sizzle, sizzle, one by one, the figures of the experts also disappeared. In the void, Yu Bol's expression was ugly, but there was nothing he could do. The Ren Huang had already spoken. If he continued to act, even he would not be able to bear the consequences. Looking at Du Xiaofu, Yu Bol also left. Kid, this is not over. I'll let you live for a few more days. Yu Tianzi said. Since Yu Bol had already left, there was no need for him to stay. He left with Yu Jigong and the hundreds of cultivators of the Black Cavalry Regiment. Du Xiaofu did not say anything from the beginning to the end. He watched the figures of the cultivators leave. They came quickly and left quickly. He was secretly thinking about something. However, everyone in the square was still in shock. No one had expected that the appearance of the Rock Emperor would attract so many powerful cultivators. With so many cultivators of the Saint Plain arriving, it caused such a huge commotion. Look, the number one hero, Jiang Yiting, is here. Ji Qianqing is here too. Yao Tianwu is there too. They are in the top 10 of the heaven roll. They are here to see the rankings. The crowd was in an uproar. Someone noticed that the young Supremes had also appeared in the sky above the square. Those extraordinary young Supremes had all sensed the changes in the heaven roll and were all alarmed. Du Xiaofu raised his eyes. He did not pay much attention to the number one hero and the others. With Du Xiaofu's current cultivation level, he had already surpassed his peers. They were no longer in the same realm. With a slight smile on his face, Du Xiaofu walked down from the examination stone. The Rock Emperor's talent is exceptional. His appearance has shaken the entire holy city. Congratulations. Sun family's Sun Bufan welcomed him with a smile. Thank you for your help, senior. Du Xiaofu bowed. Why did the Sun family help him? Although Sun Bufan did not make a move and was not afraid, he was still indebted to the Sun family for saving his life. Don't mention it. Sun Bufan was very amiable. He asked Du Xiaofu, little brother, you are from the Lin family village and have just arrived in the holy city. Why don't you stay in my Sun family first? You will be worry-free and you can also learn more about the holy city. What do you think? Sun Bufan did not beat around the bush. He hoped that Du Xiaofu could go to the Sun family. Sun Bufan, are you trying to snatch him? An angry voice sounded. An old woman of similar age appeared. She ignored Sun Bufan and smiled at Du Xiaofu, saying, young man, how about staying in my Feng family? As long as you are in my Feng family, the Yu family can't do anything to you. Greetings, senior. Du Xiaofu bowed. Just now, it was the experts of the Feng family who helped him. He had a good impression of the Feng family. Don't be polite. Just come to my Feng family. The old woman said. I found that there is still a large chapter of manuscript. I will release it together. This is the volume of 2 chapters. I have finished updating today. Everyone, rest early. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.